All right, councillors, it is now 4:32 and we will open the ordinary meeting of Hilltops Council, 28th of September 2022. May I first acknowledge the traditional owners of land we meet on today, and I humbly pay my respects to the people of the Wiradjuri and Ngunnawal nations, their past, present and emerging elders. Housekeeping: if you're asked to evacuate, the emergency procedure is to exit via the door leading out of the building directly opposite the council chambers and proceed to the footpath opposite the council chambers and await further instructions. This council meeting is being live streamed, recorded and published in accordance with council's live streaming in council meetings policy. There aren't any people present in the gallery today. There is no public forum. So we'll move on to attendance. Everybody is here, but we do have a request from Councillor Stadmiller to attend via digital means because of carers leave. And can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Piper. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Foreman. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors.
Councillors, just at that point, our Director of Planning, one of his family members has developed COVID, so he's unable to attend in person, but under clause 5.43, the General Manager may have staff attend by audio-visual means. Mr. Dyberg, our Director of Planning, will be attending by digital means, as you can see on the screen. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you. I'll ask everybody to be upstanding for a minute's silence to express our sympathy on the passing of the following: Judith Birch, Mervyn Maguire, Morris Eastlake, Joan Swan, Thora Corcoran, Craig Robinson, Terence Hocking, Nima Wesser, Hubert Jennings, Graham Ricketts, Robert Ricks, Helen Hoswell, Patricia Hotbury, Margaret Leary, Warren O'Brien, Patricia Bell and Lorna Close. Thank you, everyone. First off, we have the confirmation of the minutes. 6.1, confirmation minutes, Hilltops Council Ordinary Meeting, 24th of August 2022. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Hewson, and a seconder. Councillor Dodd. Sorry. Next. Any discussion? Any points? All right. Those in favour?
No.
Unanimous. Thank you. And the second one is at actually the Hilltops Council Extraordinary Meeting minutes. Do I have a mover for those? Councillor Fitzgerald and Councillor Armstrong. We will get we'll get to you. All right. Those in favour? Oh, any discussion? Any points? No? Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. If we turn to 6, General Manager's Report, 6.1, 22, 21, preparation of the 2020-20. Oh, pardon me, they're in the minutes. They are too. Here we go. Yes, thank you. And thank you. There isn't any disclosures of interest. No. There isn't a mayoral minute. The mayoral report is before you. I have been all over our Hilltops in this month, and it has been lovely to meet so many people within our community. So it's there for you to have a look at. And then if we go to 10.1.22.04 councillor reports, I'll go around. Councillor Armstrong, do you have any?
Your report.
Oh, pardon me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for running this meeting. I appreciate it. All right. Now we'll move to councillor reports. Councillor meetings attended. Do I have someone to move this?
Sorry, just for clarity, I know some people murmured that they were in approving, so I'm not sure we voted on the mayoral report.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
We'll vote on the mayoral report. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. So now we move to the council reports. Do I have somebody to move those? Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Let's go around. Maybe we'll go anti-clockwise as well. Councillor Flannery.
Meetings as minister and a couple of fun meetings with constituents in the Garon.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Mackie, you have yours there. Do you want to add any more? Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Nothing's there because I did send up on the 7th of August the local traffic committee meeting. 15th of August, I was meeting with some constituents. On the 14th, briefing, and on the 21st, begin meeting with them. That's September.
Thank you. Councillor Foreman.
I did not attend the Hobart meeting on the 21st of September. However, I did on the 21st of September attend the Woolworths Young renovation launch. And on the 20th of September, I sat in on a Mayors and GM meeting from the surrounding LGAs.
Thank you. And Councillor Ingram.
Yes, the meetings as minted. I took part in a Zoom meeting with the Emerging New South Wales Alliance. I took numerous, and they're starting to get repetitive calls from constituents about a number of issues, financials being one, no response from council being another. And I read an email yesterday, Madam Mayor, where some people have been trying to get a response, and from yourself actually can't get a response. So, and the other thing that comes through on every phone call I get, and I don't know about anyone else, is why can't we contact all councillors? Their phone's not listed. We have to ring the council chamber and tell them. And then I don't know what happens then, but my answer to the people who ask me that question is it's got me completely and totally lost as to why people stand to be elected and represent their community, then won't disclose their phone number. So maybe someone who's doing that can explain it. Thank you.
To you, Madam Mayor, am I allowed to address that comment?
Yes, Councillor Foreman.
Well, mine isn't listed because I feel that it's in the best interest of the people that do call me to have my undivided attention. And in my workplace, as you know, I have a lot of people that do call in on me, and the times that I was getting phone calls, I I couldn't give them my undivided attention. I couldn't serve a customer, hold a pen, write their thing down. So I'm absolutely happy to, but that was a decision that I made, but I do appreciate your concern about my business card and what is on it.
Thank you. Can I ask a question of the Deputy Mayor, please? Deputy Mayor, I've got a couple of mobiles, and on my mobiles I've got Message Bank, and I'm pretty busy too, so if I can't take the call direct, I'll take the message in my Message Bank and then I'll reply later on when I've got time. I imagine you could do the same. It's up to you, but of course. I don't know if you've got a Message Bank on your phone.
Well, I actually do, but it's the same. The council, they call me straight away, but it's the same. Whether I get a call from the council saying someone's called you or whether it's on my Message Bank, they're still waiting for my response.
Thank you. I can only pass on the commentary I'm getting from the community.
Okay, well, I'm happy to clear that up and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. And on occasions,
Oh, are you going to say something?
I was just going to say, on occasions, council have actually contacted me because for one reason or another they couldn't get through, and that I think is a good means of getting contact.
It is, Madam Mayor, if you get back to them before the item's held at the council meeting the day before. I won't go any further with that.
I could just say something quickly. I made a deliberate choice as part of my campaign that I wouldn't put my number down. Just in my different walks in my professional life, I've found that there's no record when people speak to you personally, and I don't like that. That if people want to, you know, be heated about something or they're abusive or there's no record. I find that it's very hard to record a meeting with someone over the phone. So my preference is email, and I also like to put a lot of inquiries through council, or if they need me, I'm happy for council to actually come to me and say, can you ring someone so I can initiate it and be prepared or whatever. But I made that choice that I didn't want people ringing me on the phone. Also, I'm a bit like Alison, I do work. So, and I travel. It's just, I find that it's a more professional approach through email or letter.
Thank you for that, and I take on board and respect the decision you made. I don't actually sit at home all day. I run a business, I employ people, and if I didn't answer the phone to my customers, I wouldn't have that business for very long at all. But I take your points on board, but I'm sorry, I just can't agree with.
I'm just going to say one more thing.
Yes, one more thing.
Yeah. I ran a business for 23 years and I ran a family on my own at the same time. I had to make decisions about what was business and what was personal. And for me, this is a professional decision that this is how I would prefer to do my business through council.
I totally respect that 100%. If that's the way you feel you need to represent the community, I'm all on board with you, Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you for that discussion. Now we'll get back. Councillor Stadmiller.
Meeting as minute, Mrs. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Dodd.
Nothing to add to what's written.
And Councillor Piper, nothing to add. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing to add.
And Councillor Hewson.
Could you turn your microphone on, please, Councillor?
I'm going to say it again.
Yes, just say it again.
Yes, please.
Council meeting, the briefing, and a meeting at Wombat with constituents regarding drainage in the village.
Thank you, Councillor Hewson. If we turn to number 11, community recognition. Oh, we need to.
You can turn it off now, Councillor Hewson.
Councillor Stadmiller, is your hand up? It's not. Okay. Those against? Thank you. All right, let's go to community recognition scheme. Has anybody here a community recognition? knitting scheme. I think Councillor Mackie, you have one.
Well, I was, but I thought just in the timing of the business that will change hands in October, I thought it would be more timely if I address it in our October meeting.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Nobody else? No.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to speak for a moment, if I could, in regards to the late Pat Potbury.
Yes, certainly.
For those that don't know, Pat was a stalwart of the Bridbury community, being raised there as a young lass, and then moving away, marrying, and then returning to Bridbury later in life. Pat was the driving force behind a lot of the improvements and the application for grant funding at the Bridbury Showground. And in honour of Pat's efforts, the Trust have actually named the pavilion after Pat. Her efforts there were unstoppable, I guess is the best way to describe it. Despite failing health, she put her head down and her bum up and just kept on going with getting the work done out there. And for anybody who hasn't been to the Bridbury Showground for some time, I would wholeheartedly recommend that you go for a drive out there and have a look at the facilities that are there now as a result of the efforts of wonderful people such as Pat. It is truly amazing, and it's testimony to the drive, the will, the persistence, and I guess the love of individuals of their small villages that they originally come from. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. And my suggestion might be that this Saturday is the Bridbury Show, which would be a good time to go out and have a look at.
I would suggest that would be an absolutely fantastic time to go and do that. Watch the road.
I agree.
Just be very careful of the road, though. Even.
All right, it's moving on. 12, General Manager's Report, 2205, meeting dates and times for the ordinary meeting of Council. Do we have a mover?
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. A seconder? Councillor Foreman. General Manager, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Just since the pandemic started, we have not had meetings at the other chambers. I know it is the wish of councillors to rotate these meetings, given the practicality of just today, our director being unable to attend. If we had been at another venue, they would not be able to attend by digital means. It is for your consideration from the practical until this pandemic finishes, and it is so uncertain about who may attend. I ask for your consideration to hold all meetings here as we have the technology. As I've mentioned before, we are working on technology at the other two chambers. However, that is taking time. So to put certainty within the community that they know that they wish to speak, they can speak here. I'm in your hands, councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong, would you like to start off the discussion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that the long and short of it, COVID's with us for a long time. We need to accept that. We need to embrace technology as a means of facilitating the council meeting process. It was enshrined within the phase 2 amendments, I think it was, with the Local Government Act, that technology should be used to assist local government in doing its business. This is just an opportunity for council to actually do exactly what the state government wants us to do.
Thank you. Anybody like to make any more comments? If not,
Can I just ask?
yes, Councillor Maggie.
The Zoom option is still only under the consideration when it's health and welfare.
That is correct. Oh, there's another stipulation that should there be a conference or something of the nature of council business that a councillor would like to attend to, and that otherwise they would be interstate and not able to attend, they can do so. They can make that request for digital means. So it's not just the health carers aspect.
I'll just make a comment, Mr. General Manager, that I believe that that's a flaw in the system. If you're away and it's to do with council and you're out of town, you can Zoom, but if you happen to be away on business, running your business, staying alive, why aren't you afforded the same opportunity? It's absolutely ridiculous. No doubt made by bureaucrats who know more than I do.
I think you might have a point there, Councillor Ingram. Well, if there's no more discussion, yes, Councillor Flannery.
We could write to Minister for Local Government.
So are you requesting an amendment to the Zoom option? Is that let's work on the wording, Councillor Flannery. So Councillor Armstrong and Foreman, had that intent to write to the Minister to request that be reviewed, that those circumstances that digital just be embraced as a totality?
I can't see any reason why it wouldn't be. The phase 2 amendments were pretty clear. Is what council should be doing, or what local government as an industry should be doing.
Regrettably, the model code restricts that. The in black part where we have to adopt the digital part. There are those restrictions.
Perhaps the state needs to modify the model code, Mr. General Manager.
Hence
I would support Councillor Flannery's suggestion.
Let's work on some wording.
And perhaps we could also include business and extended leave holidays. Would we include that as well to allow councillors, if they were travelling?
It would all come under one cover, I would imagine, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
I think if we get the wording tight, we can do it as in digital. So the I'll read this out for you, Councillor Stadmiller. If you'd like us to share the screen, we will, but I'll just read it in the first instance. Write to the local government minister regarding digital means to attend council meetings. Very vanilla. Would you like it on screen, Councillor Stadmiller, or are you okay?
I don't need that on the screen. Thanks, Mr. General Manager. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. So if that's acceptable to both councillors, Armstrong and Foreman, and that becomes the motion. Question by Councillor.
Through you, Madam Mayor, should it say regarding allowing digital means to attend council meetings rather than just digital means? Because it's not saying that we want to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. To the vote.
Right. Any more discussion? I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to 12.2.2206, cash and investment reports, 31 August 2022. The recommendation is in front of you.
Move the recommendation of the question.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. And seconder, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Righto. Yes, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just do note that the more than 50% of the available cash for Hilltops Council is actually held in short-term accounts, and has been now for some 5 years. I've been back through the figures and had a little bit of a look. 50% of the cash is a conservative figure at time. That's a bit upsetting, because even though we have been struggling with interest rates very low and poor returns, the worms turn, and we are now able to get much better returns on those funds. I do note that the average interest rate for amounts over $600,000 for cash managed funds is at 1.86%. Yet the last TD in there that I can see at NAB is at 2.95. I'm just wondering whether there's opportunity to move the 22.63 million that's at the CBA at the moment, that's into a few term deposits, given I doubt very much that we're going to need $22.63 million over the next 3 months, because it looks like 3 months is their sweet spot with NAB.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. CFO, would you like to comment?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. Yes, Councillor Armstrong, we can have a look at that now that the interest rates are starting to increase. Obviously, you'd noticed that there was $7 million put on short term with CBA just recently, and that was mainly through rates and some grants. But I can certainly look at the portfolio and come back to the next council meeting with a recommendation in terms of the rates, if the rates turn out to be as attractive as you might suggest.
Can I just ask a question, CFO? It might be a bit simplistic. How often does it happen that council's unable to place deposits with approved institutions because they don't have the demand for the deposits?
Are you referring to the fact that we might not use a AAA rating? It's obviously regular.
I'm just looking under financial implications, and it said, due to the current financial market conditions, investing with major banks has been limited by the financial institutions restricting their demands for deposit, and council is often unable to place deposits with approved institutions. Does that happen?
Yeah, that does
often?
happen. That does happen, and if we attempt to place an investment, T Corp watches that very closely, actually, and will highlight the fact that we need to be cautious about where we're going. Also depends on the mix. The mix, I can give a report on that if you wish to, in terms of the mix that we've got with different institutions. And so there's a limit in terms of that as well. I can bring back a report to the next meeting about both those issues, actually.
Question, that'll be.
Yes.
Through the General Manager, just in regard to those investments, I just happen to have a copy of the Local Government Act 1993 investment order in front of me here, and I don't see anywhere in there where T Corp has any duty to do anything to us in terms of who we invest with. I'm just wondering. I did ask the question of the CFO before, and he did come back with a response that there's no punitive aspect to anything that T Corp wants to do. But I'm just wondering, where does T Corp get its teeth in terms of local government investing, given that the Act says that we can invest consistent with the investment order, and there's no mention of T Corp in the Act?
Through you, Madam Mayor, my previous experience, and I will pass to the CFO for any additional comments. T Corp has its own risk management matrix, for want of a better word, and certainly the loans that local government does receive from T Corp, that T Corp administers some of those loans, like those lot of interest rates loans that happened some years ago. They gave a very strong indication that they would not be satisfied if there wasn't a certain level of risk as they assessed it from their matrix. So in that way, they influenced what you can do should you need the services of T Corp. That's been my experience. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. Yeah, just to answer that question, yes, I'll go back to the legislation in terms of T Corp's function, but certainly you might recall there's one investment we had a few months ago. Was it with AMP? We had to move it. They monitor carefully which institutions we can invest in, and obviously prefer that we have AAA ratings. We don't start investing with an institution that may, what's the word that I could use, may provide exposure, if you like. But I can certainly get the background of that for you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just as General Manager, would there be an opportunity to come back to Council with a report in regard to this? Because T Corp is also one of the people that Council may borrow money from. So if this is considered to be competitive, a competitive environment for borrowing, then to have the competitors dictating where we can place our funds is something that concerns me greatly. I'd just like some clarity behind this, because, as I said, in the order, there's no mention of T Corp limiting that at all. There's nothing in the Act at all that says it. So I just want to make sure that Council is compliant in its dealings with its investments, and consistent with the certificate of compliance that you would have signed off earlier this year.
Yes, certainly, Councillor. Yes, we can bring a report detailing the interaction.
Any more questions? Discussion? All right, I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Against? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll now turn to 12.3, 2207, outstanding rates and charges and sundry debtors report.
Move the recommendation with a question.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong, seconded. A seconder? Thank you. Councillor Foreman. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the General Manager and CFO, ultimately. Sulphur was on today. Sale of land front paid rates. Can you give us a quick update on what impacts the sulphur had on collection figures?
I can. I've got the summary right in front of me. Councillor Armstrong, yes.
Well prepared.
Yes. We was quite successful in total. The total sale prices were 286,000, but just remembering we can't offset, surpluses or losses. There were a number of deceased estates. We collected 167,000, one before the auction. Of that, 126,000 was related directly to rates. I'll give you a copy of this report if you wish. Unfortunately, with some of the reserves that was set, $41,000 will have to come back to council as rates to be written off. So they were some estates. We set the reserves with Fleming's and outstanding collections last night, yesterday afternoon. It was quite successful, but there were 1, 2, 3, 4 properties where we didn't receive enough funds to cover the outstanding rates. Remembering, unfortunately, some of these went back 10 and 12 years, a lot longer than the 5-year period, and so as a result, the rate plus interest is just accumulating. One property we didn't put to sale was a private cemetery, which was in the middle of a block. We got an issue with this, which the previous or the existing owners didn't want to buy. So it's a private cemetery. So we're raising rates on that, and I've had a chat with the general manager on a few occasions about how we're going to approach this, because we can't access it. It's the previous owners deceased. The existing owners were part of the family. They decided not to acquire that property, so that's not on the list. Again, there's rates outstanding there of about $14,000 from memory on that particular property. So yeah, so it was quite a successful. There was a bit of quite a few issues in relation to ownership of property where people.
Two to choose from. What ability do you or the general manager have to negotiate? We're better off giving it to them for $1, and then we can continue to levy rates going forward.
Councillor Flannery, yeah, that's obviously an option. Often we get Fleming's to try. In this case, Fleming's was successful in auctioning again. We have made an approach for them to purchase it, and they declined that. But yeah, for $1, it's possibly worth it. Simon and I have had a good look through the Act. Unfortunately, we have to raise rates on that particular property. We're no option, but that's worth considering. I can call Justin Fleming and see whether he is able to negotiate that so that they actually can take ownership of the property. Yeah, because we've got to rate it. Unfortunately, otherwise we've got to go back to Office of Local Government and determine and say, well, we're stuck here. We'll be raising rates and writing them off every year. We don't want to then get possessory ownership with the property that we can't access and we can't look after it.
The Act, through you, Madam Mayor, the Act does provide for sale by private treaty. Yeah. So there's nothing new in that from your council.
Sorry, it does, yes. Yep. No, we've tried on a few occasions with properties like that to get Fleming's to actually approach. They often know a lot of the neighbours or existing owners, but I can certainly try that, give it to them. council agrees, give it to them $1 because we're sitting here with about, I think about 14, 15. I haven't got it on the list here, but there are rates outstanding on that property. We can't collect it. So it was reasonably. There was a bit of a disruption with a chap who was there who seemed to be trying to outbid different other locals who were a bit annoyed about it. We couldn't remove him from the auction, but became a bit testy with a couple of, some people obviously decided where their parents hadn't changed title, and obviously we have to take land titles, and they thought that council should do it, but we said, well, you might as well buy the property, because when they got legal advice, they found it was going to cost more than what the rates plus outstanding was going to cost, in fact, to change title. So now they actually own the property. So, but there were a couple like that where another individual was bidding, and there's nothing that Justin Fleming we could do about that, but got a little bit tense at one point.
So because I had a couple of phone calls today and complaints, I might elaborate and you might answer a question, but there was a couple of unpaid rates where, as I understand it, the owners, well, the adjoining landholder wasn't necessarily the person who hadn't paid the rates. It might have been a family member who's died, or in one particular case, I think there was a, I forgot the name of the company, but a company that ceased trading in Australia in 1886, and somehow land has still been in their possession, and rates have been unpaid on 20 metres by whatever, 100 metres. And there was a certain individual, I think there was two of them, who were just trying to buy these parcels of land up as big as this room, and then so they could then go back, either give the owners grief or trade off the owners, forcing the owners to have to buy it off them down the track.
That was certainly the presumption. I mean, obviously we can't prove that, but is that the property at Frogmore? Springvale Road? Woolpack Pastoral Company? There's one at Burrawell under the Mutual Investment Company. Yeah, look, we had a long discussion with them, and they made, Rob went, so there was two parcels, two cousins from a family, obviously, for some years ago. Why they weren't aware that Australian Mutual had not either removed the mortgage, we can't answer. I know that when Jody looked it up, I looked up with him present actually, and it was certainly listed with land titles on Australian Mutual Investment. So obviously that's an issue. So I found out today, I did say to him, well, if you want to pay the rates, and then they could split between the two cousins, which they've now doing, we're actually drafting a new contract up for them. I don't know if they told you that. We're going to the trouble of drafting a new contract, even though, so they paid for the property. That was, we set that at a reserve of 16. Yes, a guy did bid against them. Who knows what the purpose was there. Obviously they were a bit annoyed about that. He'd sold for 23,000. There's outstanding rates approximately of about 13,000 on that one, plus legals, plus about $1,000 for the auction fees today. As I said to them at the end of it, and they got legal advice, he told me, I didn't realise that, it would have cost more to have got the title changed. So if they'd have paid the rates and then gone to lawyer to spend $20,000-$30,000, and another person was also in that same position with not knowing title hadn't been changed. I mean, these things were on the website. I know they said they missed it. We showed them where it was on the website some months ago. Remember, this came out of the motion of council last year. And it was done in prior my time, done in two lots because it was too difficult to probably put 40 property up on one go. So we did one in March, one now. And there's a couple more still to go that we'll have to come back to council about. But at the end of the day, whilst they got pushed up about $3,000 or $4,000, they spent less by getting it, and they've now got title than what they would have done if they'd have tried to change the title and pay the rates, which I said to them, if you pay the rates, I'll remove it from auction under the Act. So in fact, it's actually cost them less than if they'd have gone down that process. But I went through that with them. I said, well, we're bound. We can't, council has no right to change title. We can't change title of property. And why some of these properties have not been, titles not been changed, about 3 of them like this, I can't answer. And this went back to 2007.
Is that in the former Borough Council area, that one?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Minister for Local Government was running it.
So there were quite a few deceased estates in this batch as well. But what do you do? I mean, a lot of them are way over the 5 years. Actually, it should have been dealt with some years ago. They say they weren't contacted. Local outstanding collections tell us they write letters to neighbours, etc. I can't.
I was told they weren't contacted. And I said, well, notices and have gone to someone. I said, someone's been receiving notices because we don't just sell them. But
yeah. Well, and why? Well, I can't answer why the investment company didn't remove the caveat or mortgage on that property. I can't answer that. Yes, we're right across that. We had a long discussion with those three gentlemen, or four gentlemen after the auction, actually. And I had a discussion with them beforehand as well in terms of options, but this actually turned out to be their cheapest option. In fact, we're going to split the two contracts are now going to be drawn up between the two so that the two cousins have been separated.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith, for all the work you've put into this and for the sympathetic way that you have carried out the business. And I think that's to be commended. So thank you.
just before you, so we've collected about 440,000 by way of sales or rates that were paid prior to the auction. Is that correct?
440. I'm not sure.
Was it a 286 from the
286 was the total sales today.
And how much was paid prior to the auction so they didn't go?
6,595 was paid. So we got 167, but 41,000 of that the reserve didn't cover our, and we actually knew that last night when we met with Fleming's about getting valuations. So we knew we were going to be short. And with rates, we've got to come back to council. I have to do a report and bring that back to council.
Just for the clarity of all councillors through you, Madam Mayor, if one of the properties sold for some tens of thousands more, that is the benefit to the land owner. This is a mechanism for us to recover the rates and associated costs and interest. Any economic gain above in relation to that property vests back in the owner.
Just on that, actually, that was the other point. Where that company doesn't exist anymore and the land sale price at 23,000 and the reserve was 16,000, what happens to the 7,000 given they don't hold this?
No, the property is theirs. They pay the 23,000 and they get automatic title.
Council's collected 23,000 from the sale. The
sorry.
reserve was 16,000. Yeah. The company whose name it was in doesn't.
No, that'll go back to these owners, the two owners. They were working out the split, and with some of these where they're deceased estates, the issue we'll have is we'll have unclaimed monies. Obviously, we can't retain the difference between the sale value and what the rates are outstanding and legal costs. So there's a couple on here. We're going to have to spend money trying to find out who might have been the prospective owner.
We'll, as through Madam Mayor, look as extensively as within our means
6
to
years.
find who owns it, from whether it's a trust, etc. Ultimately, if we are unable to determine that, it goes back to consolidated revenue of the state. We don't get to keep it.
Under the Unclaimed Monies Act, after 6 years, I want to try and get rid of it before then, we have to return it to the state government. Goes into unclaimed, just like unclaimed superannuation and stuff. Yeah. So we have to. I'd like to get it out of our account much before that time.
Maybe we should ask the Minister for Local Government if we can keep it after 6 years. I mean, well, it's a reasonable request. It's for rates.
Well, they weren't worried about.
They get it. They don't do anything.
They weren't worried about collecting it. It was actually the administrator at the time.
They should get it.
Well, let's move on. Thank you. So we'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do note that there's been some minor changes here, particularly the inclusion of the child slavery legislation. It's a pretty standard document. The Office of Local Government will be looking for. I think we should just pass it.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll put it to the vote then. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, Councillor. Oh, I haven't got mine.
The
That's better.
question relates to the community facility, and I believe a report was coming back there. If we can be advised of the community facility, I assume that's one that, or I'm assuming that's one that council owns, or is it one that council owns? Because I think in the August meeting, there was a request that a report come back to council on leases is one question. And then I note we received an email on the Regional Youth Investment Fund, an application or an email about a grant application that's open to repurpose the existing library. I note that when there was a request by the HRDC to repurpose the old tennis courts, they were told that it'd have to go through community consultation. Is there some different rule for the library that there was for the tennis courts, or could we be advised in both Crown land?
Through you, Madam Mayor. The applications are not actually business of council. The proposition for that application is a proposition for that application. Council will be more fully informed and the progress of that. I know there's been some other questions in relation to that application. I'm in your hands, councillors, about what to do with that application. We invited any input in relation to that, but that's not business for today. We haven't put papers before.
Point of order, Madam Mayor, that's not on the agenda for tonight.
Yeah.
Could the question about the community facility be answered?
I'll pass through, Madam Mayor. I'll pass through to the Director of Planning, Mr. Dyberg. Are you still online?
I am online, but I missed the question. I think Councillor Flannery was muted.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the question by Councillor Flannery in relation to the table on page 43 of the report. We're talking to the development application statistics. The second development type is community facility for a development valuation of 289,000. Councillor Flannery has just asked for any information you may be able to provide in relation to that development application as appropriate. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's no additional information provided in this report, but we do have all that information in the planning portal, and elected members are encouraged to go there to find out the information that they need.
So is the community facility council owned?
Through you, Madam Mayor, this report is about giving the council a view of general activity in the development area and sector. It isn't about giving you detailed information on each and every development application that's been approved in the last month. So I haven't prepared any more than what's in there, which is the basic information about the type of development it is, because that's relevant to the overall economic picture that we're trying to paint.
Next section.
And am I right in saying that you said that it's found on the portal? Is that right?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Any more questions?
Sorry, through you,
Yes.
Madam Mayor, would that come under community facility in the portal or something specific, a specific name?
Director, could you answer that question?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the best way to use the portal is to reference the DA number that's in the report. If you put that into the portal and search by that, it will take you to all the information that you need.
So I get this correct or not, that as councillors, we're not allowed to ask in regard to a community facility, which we nearly regard as council, and we're not allowed to ask the question, we're directed to a portal? Am I getting that right?
Through you, Madam Mayor, what I said was that this report is about painting you a picture of overall economic activity as it is expressed by development applications. That's what the purpose of this is, as we identified in the community strategic plan, and so I haven't prepared any more information than what's here, and so I don't have this information. I can take that on notice and provide more information if that would be helpful.
It's okay. I'm assuming you don't know the answer.
But it would, if it could be taken on notice and perhaps included in a newsletter or a briefing.
Absolutely, happy to do that.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments? Councillor Armstrong.
Just a request. I did make a request a couple of meetings ago, I think. In the year-to-date column, can we please have that clarified as to whether it's a calendar year-to-date or a financial year-to-date? I think it just needs CAL or FIN. And the 3 letters should fix it up.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we certainly make it part of the table as narrative above, and financial year-to-date is tabled below the narrative. So we make the table clearer. Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
That's financial.
It is the financial. Councillor Stadmiller has a question.
Councillor Stadmiller.
Just a question regarding DA 2022/0086 subdivision no new road. What does that mean? It's on page 46, about 4 down.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stadmiller. Sorry, I'm using less than optimal arrangements at the moment. I'm sitting in an hotel room. So subdivision.
It's got no new road.
I'll take that on notice.
Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Yes.
Councillor Piper.
DA 2022-0067, the one above that one. Have we any idea what size the subdivisions are in Bryall Street, Boorowa?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll also take that on notice.
Thank you, Director.
Why
Councillor Flannery?
Yep, thank you. Why do we no longer have the date of when the DA was lodged and how many days in the table?
So through you, Madam Mayor, we provide the overall processing times in the pie chart above the table on page 45, because that gives the council an indication of the overall performance of the in the development assessment space. If councils would like to know their exact processing time or what's going on with an individual one, the best place to go is to reference it from the portal, and then you'd get all the information that you need.
We don't know what the community, we've got one community facility with the DA application in. We don't know which one it is. We don't know which one what the Boorowa one is. And we're now being told that it's too much work to put the dates in, which we've had, as long as I've been a councillor, it's had the date of lodgement, the day it's being considered for. I mean, honestly.
Through you, Madam Mayor, this format was one that was adopted back in July, and David Rowland put that in as part of the changes that he wanted to progress as part of delivering on the council's objective in the space, which is under that community strategic plan, and which is the reporting of local economic activity. This is not a report about each development application and inviting elected members to have a chance to have a deep dive discussion on them. And that's not what I have not prepared for that. If that's something I'm very keen to explore how we can make this report as helpful to you as possible so you can understand what is happening in the sector. And you already have the delegations to consider any development application that hits the threshold in terms of public interest. And so the vast majority of these are ones that are being approved under delegation and are an operational matter.
I'd like to move an amendment to the development application statistics, the recommendation that council receive and note the report, and part B that we return to the schedule of date of lodgement and the days being considered. If I could get the...
I'll second that. I'll have the mover in a second. Sorry.
So, Madam Mayor, for Councillor Flannery moved it and Councillor Armstrong seconded it. So if you're happy with the wording to form part of that motion, then it becomes the motion.
Thank you.
Date of lodgement and days outstanding. That's correct, Councillor Flannery?
Yes, back to the format from July previously.
The amendment is accepted by you, Councillor Flannery and Armstrong. Okay, all right. Any other comments? Those in favour? I think it's unanimous, I think. Okay, thank you. Thank you, councillors. The next one is 12.6, 2210, DA 2022, 0186, a dwelling house on 31 Jordan Place, Young. You can see the recommendation in front of you. Do I have a mover?
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong, and thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Armstrong, do you want to make a comment?
I do note that there are some issues in regards to or potential for issues for shading. The offset was the only issue that concerned me, but I'm quite happy that the conditions that imposed so far will more than ameliorate any concerns in regards to the reduced offset.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, just the only comment I make, I think it's fairly detailed in dealing with the issues that Councillor Armstrong raised, but I'm just concerned, and I don't know whether it's appropriate or not, with the roof colour. Do we have any restrictions on roof colour in Hilltops?
I'll pass to the Director of Planning. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's no explicit conditions around management of rooftops, but obviously there may be times when there's amenity considerations may factor in, but not as a general rule.
So at the moment there are no conditions.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
What
Councillor
would be the
Fitzgerald.
requirements if we were going to bring in a condition like no dark roofs or put? How would we go about doing that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the opportunity to do that would be when we come to review our development control plan. That is something that's on the work program in the coming year, and that would be, and we can certainly factor that into the mix of options when we come to providing greater specificity in how we assess development applications.
Just a question.
Yes.
In regard to that,
Councillor Ingram.
I'm just wondering if anyone asked Councillor Fitzgerald put the question up. Was it okay for you to have your roof the colour it is? No one asked me, and I don't really believe in a rural setting, in a rural community, that such an extreme measure like that would be necessary. The last time we debated colour of the type of roofs in this chamber was in the Young Council that I was involved with, was in relation to glare. And one objector cost one business an extremely high amount of money. The solution was free and cheap. For 15 minutes of a day, all they had to do was pull a curtain closed. That's where I'm coming from, if you're just wondering about these types of matters.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm no scientist, but there is an argument about dark roofs.
Can you keep going, please?
Well, yeah, like I say, I'm no scientist. It's just the things I'm reading about retaining heat and not good for the environment. I know you talk about Hilltops or Young, but you know there's a bigger world out there that we have issues with. So, like I say, I'm no scientist. I'm not making any scientific explanations, but there's material out there that says it's really not good for a community.
I'm only a local council and a local government trying to save our local area. I've got no hope of saving the world.
No,
Can we have a comment? Look, I'm in agreement with Councillor Ingram on this. I think it's ridiculous because someone goes and builds a new house and we've got a rule saying they need it to be yellow or pink or grey or whatever. Someone can go and replace the roof on the house. They don't even have to come to council. It's just stupid.
Councillor Stadmiller, I believe that you had a comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to clarify whether there were any objections or not against this proposal. It was quite an extensive report, but just a number of pages, whether I had missed anything or whether the neighbours were happy with the proposal.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there were no submitters to this application.
Thank you very much.
Can
Yes,
I
Councillor
respond to some of
Fitzgerald.
the comments that have been made? One of the things we've got, and we do have a changing climate, as people are well aware. We do have one. And my concern is with
the business.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Fitzgerald is talking.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Councillor
Councillor-
Armstrong.
I'm not Councillor Armstrong
Please
again,
address-
Madam Mayor.
Councillor
Please
Ingram.
address me, not Councillor Ingram.
I
I'm
apologise.
going quite tired of this.
I-
I find it very rude.
I apologise, and I certainly have no intention of being rude, so I do apologise. And Councillor Ingram.
One of the arguments brought against dark coloured roofs is that it does retain heat and requires thus more electricity to be used for air conditioning. And we're trying to minimise the use of electricity in a lot of different ways. I just think it's something that we need to consider. And I'm very pleased that the council has considered it in the past, but just because we've considered it once doesn't mean we shouldn't go back and consider it again.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald, for your remarks. And maybe if we come back to the motion here, and I will put it to the floor. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you.
I'd like to move a motion, Madam Mayor.
Oh, I'm good on. Yes, Councillor Armstrong.
That motion will be A, adopt the Hilltops Heritage Strategy 2022-2025 with the following amendments, and note the report on the Heritage Advisory Service for the 21-22 financial year. Those amendments being 1.3A to be modified to grant an offset to provide a grant rather than offset to fees or waive fees. This ensures that the true cost of heritage conservation is reportable and is not masked by reducing income in the building section. And 2.1F, modified by replacing the plan of management with a plan of management. And I'm happy to speak to those when appropriate.
It's up now. So we have here that Council A adopt the Hilltops Heritage Strategy 2022-25 and attachment 1, and B, note the report. And the motion.
So the motion, adopt the Hilltops strategy, attachment 1, with the following amendments: 1.3A.
Yep. 1.3A, adopt the Hilltops, here we go, 1.3A to be modified to offset to fees or waive fees, and 21F, modify with a plan of management to a plan of management.
To be modified to provide a grant to offset fees.
To provide a grant. A grant to, do you want to offset? Righto, Councillor Armstrong, do you want to?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. In moving that motion, I believe that council needs to be not masking its contributions towards heritage, and by actually waiving fees or reducing fees, we are masking that contribution. We're taking the money out of income that would ordinarily come back to our health and building section through fees, and we're offsetting it against heritage, but never actually reporting it that way. So by providing a grant to cover those fees, by charging full fees and then offsetting those by way of grant, we are accounting for our contributions to heritage fully, and we are fully reporting the income that is due by way of those fees for council. So, and in regard to 2.1F, the plan of management appears to me as though there can only ever be one, rather than a plan of management, which is a plan that is flexible and can change.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Any other comments?
So are you saying, through you, Madam Mayor, so Councillor Armstrong, are you saying that you would like us to apply for a grant to cover instead of waiving the fees?
No. What I'm saying, Councillor, just is when council waives a fee or reduces a fee, it effectively reduces the income that should be earned by the section that raises that fee. And in doing so, it hides its contribution to the cause that the fee was waived for. So it's never actually reported back. If council was to waive a fee for $1,000, then really what it should be doing is reporting back that it's had $1,000 contribution towards whatever the fee was waived for, and that there was $1,000 income for fees. By simply waiving them and reducing them, then we're masking all of that. We're not providing factual reporting back to the community.
Would that not?
Yeah. The amount we're spending on heritage, as it is our community contributions to childcare. I support Councillor Armstrong wholeheartedly. It's not reporting the significant community contribution we can make towards heritage. You often hear it complained that the council does nothing about heritage, does nothing about this. We make significant contributions to our community facilities, which are not reported because they are on peppercorn leases. They should be made pay leases and then grant the money back.
One local community project going on at the moment that council's contributed enormous amount of money to for heritage is the joint use library, an extreme addition to the cost for the sake of heritage.
Through you, General Manager, also, what constitutes heritage? What is it? Is it based on age? Is it based on what? Sorry.
Through Madam Mayor, I will pass to the Director of Planning to fulfil that question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, how we apply this clause is that our heritage advisor is the person that gives that advice about whether a development, constitutes here, an item that's worthy of being considered for the waiving of fees, and it's essentially against criteria that either come through our local environmental plan, Heritage New South Wales, and their criteria. Can I just also say that I think it's a really important. We do have visibility over the amount of support council gives to heritage. So the idea of reporting on the amount of money that is waived by way of our current approach when it comes to development applications would be a really important way of providing transparency on that. The other option is the one that's on the table, is the which is to be very explicit about that by essentially requiring a grant to be paid to be able to then offset the costs of the development. You'd all be aware that there'd be an additional transactional cost and potentially barrier to people taking advantage of that, but definitely the opportunity to provide greater clarity and transparency around the support we give for heritage is something that we can do.
Thank you, Director.
Madam Mayor, through you,
Councillor Piper.
Could I ask Councillor Ingram a question about the heritage that you said we are paying a lot of money for? Was this before the election where I'm a new councillor?
Yes,
and if so, is the Councillor Ingram allowed to tell me and the rest of the councillors what that project is? Because I've got no idea.
The project I was referring to is the joint use library with the young high school. And because a fairy tale was told in the stories that get told, there was a tunnel which had great significant heritage value. An enormous amount of work and time and money was done to prove that that fairy tale tunnel never existed. And once work started on that, they did come across some historical artifacts. And once they came across those, the whole project was stopped and a whole lot more digging was done. And they found, I haven't got the exact number, but it's a big number of artifacts that they consider historical and of heritage value that will be displayed in a glass case in the finished building. The cost of which I can't give you because I couldn't get it when I was on that committee and representing council as mayor, just as how much extra that added to the cost of the facility. But it was enormous.
Thank you.
There was a cost, but from what I believe, it is covered by the state, not by us.
Hilltops Council borrowed $1.5 million to put towards the project with the grant funding that was handed to us by the state. So yes, my word, we contributed to it. This council borrowed money for the project. So the added cost is paid by all. What it does is reduces, now that you brought it up, Madam Mayor, what it does is reduce the finishings and just some of the things that were planned for that building. Now, I've been out of the loop for 8 to 9, 10 months now since I was involved with it. But when I spoke to the people involved from Department of Infrastructure at Department of Education, you've got to stay within the budget. So that money being eaten up, by those diggings, it has to come off somewhere. So corners would have been cut. So it does affect everyone, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Ingram. Councillor Dodd, did you have a...
I just had a comment that I felt that there should have been more in there about our Indigenous Aboriginal heritage and protecting that, but I don't have any suggestions for anything for this particular document. But the next time round, I think I would like some more in this around our Indigenous heritage.
Question for the General Manager. I believe there was a grant. Oh shit! I believe there was a grant available for $40,000 for a heritage, Aboriginal heritage study, which as part of the LEP, and we were not able to get support for that. Can we be advised of where that was up to?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I do recall there was some work done in relation to, I'm not sure how it relates to the grant that you talk about. I know that I did have a meeting here with a representative of the local land council, as well as a representative who investigates the Indigenous history, and there was some work done for that, and it was funded through a grant. So there has been some work done in that space. I just can't recall where the report got to.
Righto, if there's no more discussion, let's put this up. The motion to adopt the Hilltops Heritage Strategy with the following amendments. 13A, to be adopted to provide a grant to offset fees or waive fees, and 21F, modify the plan of management to a plan of management. Those in favour?
Madam
We
Mayor,
haven't got a second yet, no.
Oh, me, do I have a second? So it's none.
So those against? The motion was passed, Councillor.
Excuse me, Madam
No,
Mayor.
it wasn't unanimous.
Councillor Stadmiller?
I didn't actually hear. There was a breakdown in the audio there. I just heard those against. I didn't hear those for.
So are you Councillor for? Are you Councillor Stadmiller? Are you for?
I was for it, but I didn't hear it, so I didn't
Okay.
do anything when I was given the opportunity
All right.
probably arose
Okay,
to
I'll say it again.
vote for.
Those for? Right, and against? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to avail us as to why you are not supporting it.
I support the original motion, not necessarily with the amendments. That's my reasoning.
The reason for that, sorry.
I think that's enough. All right, let's go to 12.8, 22.12. Submission to draft South East and Tablelands regional
move the
plan.
recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong, and seconded by Councillor Ingram. Any discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour?
Councillor Stadmiller, we appear to have lost your visual. Okay.
We take it he has left the meeting.
For procedural, we'll count that Councillor Stadmiller for purpose left the meeting at 5:30 and will join us when we see him on screen.
All right, let's go to the vote again.
Yeah.
We've done it.
Councillor
Stadmiller, sorry, are you for?
Yeah, sorry, I've just missed the whole thing. I had a phone call there about a busted pipe on my property. So sorry about that. I had to take it. I knew that it was going to be something along those regards. Could I be
So there was
brought
the
up to
submission
speed
to
with
the
where up
draft
to.
Southeast and
Yeah,
Tablelands
that's fine.
regional plan,
I-
and you're for
I
it.
endorse that.
Thank
Yep,
you.
I'm for that.
Thank you, councillor. Unanimous. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, 12.9 on page 130. It's the draft Hilltops Council Plumbing and Drainage Policy.
Happy to move.
Thank you, councillor Ingram. Second, councillor Piper. Any questions? Council Planner, the Director of Planning, you don't wish to speak to it at all?
No, I don't, Madam Mayor.
All right, then I will put it to the floor. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. All right, the next one, 1210, 2214, draft Hilltops Council private swimming pool policy. It's found on page 136 for anyone who is looking. The recommendation is before you. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald, and a seconder, Councillor Mackie. Oh, sorry. Councillor Stadmiller, you have a question? Or a
Yeah,
comment?
just a question regarding this policy. I sort of thought that we had policies at the former Hardenshire Council regarding private swimming pools. Is this just bringing it under the banner of Hilltops?
So through you, Madam Mayor, this is the quadrennial review of a suite of policies that the council adopted back in 2017, and so this is the 4 years after that, and it's just been largely updated to ensure that references to standards and the like are fit for still correct, and that the regimes for monitoring are still fit for purpose.
Thank you. Any other comments?
To you, General Manager,
Councillor
how
Thorne.
much does it cost to get your pool looked at every 5 years?
I'll need to pass to the Director of Planning. I'm not aware of the fee. There is a fee, and I'm fairly certain it might be actually set by the state. I'm just not sure, but Director of Planning?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't know the number off the top of my head. I'll take that on notice and get back to you.
That's okay. It's in the user fees and charges. I can look it up. That's fine. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just a question of the Director of Planning through you. Does he have any idea of the number of pools, private pools in Hilltops?
Through you, Madam Mayor, not off the top of my head, and I'm not going to have a guess. I'll take that on notice and provide that response.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments? Put to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors.
Move the recommendation with the question.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the General Manager. Does Council maintain a register of on-site sewage management facilities? And how often are these facilities inspected?
I'll pass that question through to the Director of Planning through you, Madam Mayor.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we are going through a major review of our systems at the moment in terms of the CRM side of things. So, I'll take that on notice and provide an answer to that.
Thank you.
Can I add to that, please? As I have a property with an on-site sewage, it's inspected quarterly by a qualified inspector, and a report is passed to council.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald.
I have on-site sewage and I've been there 17 years and it hasn't been inspected.
So that's completely, to answer the question, it was a requirement from the council when we built that it had to be inspected and provide that ongoing inspection. So that's what happened to me.
Okay, thank you. And
They trust
Councillor
some, they
Park,
don't trust others. I don't know.
If it has to be inspected quarterly, I think it is, isn't it? Does council
Hold on.
do an inspection, and how much does it charge if we do?
Through you,
Councillor
Madam Mayor, Director of Planning.
Again, I'll take that on notice and get response on terms of what the fees are for that.
And the inspection program, please.
Councillor Stadmiller, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick one. There's lots of varying distances here of what you can and can't do in regards to the on-site treatments. Are these in line with Australian standards, or have we gone above and beyond with anything here?
Through you, Madam Mayor, this policy has been produced very much in line with standards and what is industry best practice and the advice from the general community of practice within the environmental health community. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you. Any more comments, questions? I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour?
Yeah.
Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to 12.12, 22.16, the works report.
Happy to move it with questions.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. And a seconder, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Ingram, do you want to make any comments?
Unfortunately, yes, I do. I sent an email to relevant staff and all councillors in regard to a matter that I've been on about, I don't know, 7 years, 8 years, about the entrances to Young, all to no avail. Even on one of our biggest weekends, which show weekend, it couldn't manage to be mowed. More than one entrance, I know that, but the amount of traffic and the volume of traffic that comes in Millwall Road to our community, the approach is a disgrace. Has been for a long time. I've spoken to several general managers about it. We also travel, and I've said this in public statement before as well, that I commend the staff at Boorowa and Harden. You could play lawn bowls on it. It's beautiful. Millvale Road is a disgrace. There's a foot high. When they do get Slash to do some work there, it is too much trouble. It's been done once after I think the general manager put some pressure on to actually mow and slash and whippersnip in between the row of trees as you come down the hill. They don't even go near that now. I again would like someone to be able to answer to me, and I was informed by the general manager that the gentleman who was in charge of these matters was now in charge of the 3 communities. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. General Manager, that hasn't worked. If you think I sit here and like bringing this up every council meeting, you're wrong. But this is what's happening in the community of Young with me bashing every month. Just imagine what it'd be like if I didn't bash. And I'm not bashing staff. That's probably the wrong word, but I go on about it. I know people say I go on about it, and I will continue to go on about it. And I'll be moving at a later stage to move some money to make sure that the entrances to the township of Young are improved. I'm sick of people saying, well, you can't mow, it's on a slope, you can't. Of course you can. It's a matter of getting the right equipment and the right people to do it. But to go to you, Mr. General Manager, it starts at the top. You can say it's your works depot, people to report to you. Can someone just explain to me really simply why it can be done at the other communities regularly and neat and looks a picture, and it cannot be done for Young?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I've never described any depot as worst. I will pass to the manager of operations.
I'm sorry, you misunderstood me, Mr. General Manager. I never said worst. I said works.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll absolutely retract that. I'm sorry. I will pass to the manager of operations to discuss the program and challenges.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Ingram, yes, I've taken over this job now and I've been working with the depot staff to work on a program. I've noted your email the other day and yeah, we apologise for the Mulver Road that hasn't been done. We are looking at getting it better, so hopefully in future we'll get some accolades for that one as well. So again, I apologise.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager, and it will be closely monitored about just how much time it will take, because the last 5 years we've got nowhere. So hopefully we can have something achieved before 5 years comes. Otherwise, you'll get sick of me bashing next month. But it's something that just stands out. The difference between how the three communities are treated in regard to that matter. So thank you for that answer to that question. Thank you. I'll let someone else have a go and then come back.
Question. Madam Mayor, through you.
Yes, Councillor Hall.
How many slashes do we have based here in Young?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not sure about that, Councillor Piper. I'll come back to you on that one. I'll take it in notice and I'll let you know.
You might lend us one, Councillor Piper.
Just through you, Madam Mayor, a question to the General Manager. This goes to service levels and service levels that are being provided. The mowing of footpaths at the moment, given the rain and the warming weather, has become a far more contentious issue, I think, than people realise. Can the schedule for routine street and footpath mowing be provided for councillors for their information? Because I note that routine street and footpath mowing is something that we're doing on a regular basis, but I'm just unable to find the footpath that's been mowed. So can we get that schedule as a service level schedule?
Look, I'm not aware of the existence of that document or documents, but I will actually pass to the manager of operations what we may do to facilitate information for the councillors in the community about our program.
When members of the community ring me up and ask when the footpaths will be mown, I'd like to be able to tell them.
Through you, Madam Mayor, sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask the impact that the recent weather may have on the scheduling of all this slashing?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, we've had some serious impacts on it. What our staff is experiencing, some places the mowers get bogged down and they tend not to go in then and stay out of it. So yes, it did have a big impact on us.
I'd like to reflect back to the email that I sent around that was mentioned earlier. You know, the COVID, the droughts, fires, everything else affects us, and now you bring up the wet weather. I think I mentioned in my email, it's just incredible how it's only affected Young. It hasn't affected the approaches of Young and Boorowa. I find that incredulous. I just cannot understand how it would cause delays with our slashing, but
I
not
just
anything
respond
else.
to that?
Yep.
Because I live very close to Boorowa, and you know the Kenya Road was always, you know, looking $1 million when it slashed. But you have to have your togs out now, you know, to go and mow that. I can't even mow my front lawn, so I can understand why the Kenya Road hasn't been slashed. It's beyond crazy wet. So I don't think Young is alone, because I know around Boorowa it's so wet.
Through you,
Thank
Madam Mayor.
It's Councillor Piper.
I've been here 6 months and I will back Councillor Ingram up here. He has brought this up a number of times. We've had a lot of water at the moment, but we haven't had it for the whole 6 months. We didn't have it for 12 months before. And from what I understand is this is a continuing problem here. And I know Boorowa, I know I shouldn't know because I do know that they do have a schedule. And but we can't keep using the wet weather at the moment. We've got to get something going here.
It confirms what I've been told, Councillor Piper, that staff in some areas of our council area just go and do it because it needs doing. It just doesn't happen here.
Thank you. Can I just, Councillor Stadmiller, last comment.
I'll just quickly raise the Jugeong Harden Road. A month ago at this meeting, I asked what would be done to fix the issues associated with the loss of sub-base there and the fact that the bitumen was basically in sort of thin air, 10 to 15 mil thick and near the white line, meaning that if a car and its tyre drove along the white line about 5 kilometres from Jugeong, they would simply fall away and they'd go into the culvert and crash and there'd be a fatality. I knew when I asked the question and I was told it would be looked at when council staff got time. It wasn't going to happen. So I went out yesterday just to ensure that I was going to be right and took some more photos, and absolutely nothing had happened. So in the space of about 30 days, what I deemed to be very serious and could cause a fatality, council has not done one thing to address that road. I don't know whether we have a director of infrastructure still with us or the gentleman speaking now is a new one or what, but I'm happy to go for a drive tomorrow and show him the state of this. It's just getting beyond the joke. 58 people or something along that number need to be employed by council. We're obviously short because in a month we haven't been able to send anyone out there at a high enough level to give the guys on the ground the tools they need and the funding that they need to get this job done and fixed up, because this goes on for a couple of 100 metres and there's going to be a fatality. And I've just seen another email there from a family at the Glen Air Road. It's basically undrivable. And I drove that as well in a small vehicle and basically nearly came off the road myself at low speed. So I think we need to have a serious look at the cost of our road network and the repairs that are going to need to be done when we do get some dry weather in the next 12 months. And I'm begging the General Manager to go out the Jugeong Harden Road within about 6 kilometres of Jugeong and have a look at what I'm talking about. And I'll take him, I'll take the mayor, I'll take whoever wants to come in the car and show them what we're talking about here, because it's getting beyond the joke. Councillor Ingram's right. In regards to the grass here, we're going to have brown snakes that have been feeding on mice in sort of a mice plague for the last 2 years that are going to be 6 foot long, attacking people as they walk through our parks. We're going to have people crashing their cars on our roads. So it's time we get serious about a few things. Thank you very much.
I'll pass to Mr. Muller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Councillor Stedmiller, we did go out the same night that you brought it to our attention. Signage were put up. Signage is monitored on a weekly basis. At the moment, that road is not unsafe to drive on per se. Yes, if you do go off the side of the road, you will damage your vehicle and possibly get hurt. But in any event, whatever we do, the same will happen in any case. There is other roads that's got more pressing issues than that specific one between Harden and Jugeong. We are monitoring it, like I said. The Glen Air one, we did go out, we did have a look there, and they did fill up those cracks that the water has created there. Unfortunately, we cannot get in there even with a grader. It's just too wet. We had a grader in on one of the other roads the other day and it got bogged. So we have put signage in on Glen Air, reduce speed, drive to the conditions, and I have responded to the complainant at that stage, and that's as far as we can go with it until the roads dry out. We just cannot do it.
Thank you. One more, Councillor Stedmiller.
Look, thanks for the response. And the signage is going to do a good job at slowing some people down, but it's just not a good enough outcome for the repairing of the road. We've got to get in to get something done here, whether it's bigger machinery, and I hate to say it, contractors in, because I think we should be employing people from our own towns and ensuring that they've got work, but whatever needs to be done, needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. And a couple of signs aren't going to do it. They aren't going to cut it. There's a heap of aggregate that needs to go down the side of the road in Jugiong, and then it needs to be reinforced because there's 10 or 15 mil of bitumen just sitting there in thin air, which at 130 kilos, which I weigh, if I stood on, I'm going to fall on and snap 2 ankles. But a car travelling at 40, 60, 80, 100 k's an hour, it's going to go straight into it and go straight into the side of a hill. And we've got to get serious about it. I'm not going to have blood on my hands. I've mentioned it twice now. So it's up to those at council who have the means to make the changes.
Thank you, Councillor Sedmiller. I think all these problems just aren't our problems, but Councillor Flannery.
Question through you, Madam Mayor. How many patching trucks do we have and how many days are they operating?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure. I'll have to come back to you on that one, Councillor Flannery. I'm still trying to find my feet, unfortunately. Sorry.
Whilst I share the concerns about the slashing, patching has got to be our number one priority. The roads are desperate. I think that, to me, there's a lack of urgency in getting our roads fixed. They are straight out dangerous and someone's going to get killed. And I drive on a lot of the roads. The Moppity Road is desperate. I nearly had an accident on it today because there was a car in the middle of the road trying to avoid a pothole. If bikes hit those holes, someone's going to get killed. To say it's wet and we're struggling to do things, I support Councillor Stadmiller. I believe some Gabion rock can be put on the side of McMahon's Reef Road to at least avoid a drastic situation if they go off. But as a business owner who has to put up with wet weather every day, it doesn't cut it. I've had to buy portable sheep yards. We've all had to do extreme measures to cope with these situations. If we don't have 3 patching trucks operating out of every depot, we need to get them, and we need to get them urgently, and we need to get men working daily, fixing potholes. It's just not good enough, and our roads are desperately dangerous.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery.
Madam Mayor, another question through you.
Yes, Councillor Piper.
I drive Woorolwidi Young and a few other places, and I see patching out of trucks, which is a shovel into a hole, shovel into a hole. The next car that goes over that rips it all out and it's gone away. Do we have our repair trucks with a compactor? A little machine that you zip start and go boom, 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 and at least compacts what they're putting in with the shovel. I agree. I've just come back from a break, as you know, all the way up from Cape York, and it's consistent all the way. We're all having trouble. But what we do, we've got to do a bit better. The shovel fills the hole while the gentleman's there filling it, but the next car that comes over, if that's not compacted properly, the next car sticks to his tyres and it's gone again.
I haven't even seen a patching truck on the Moppity Road for a month.
I'm not disputing where they are, what they're doing.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for your conversation.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just quickly, I would just like to also say I support Councillor Flannery and everyone of the other councillors in the room that have discussed the roads. I have also been contacted about Glen Eyre Road, as many have, also Rowan's Lane, and I feel that it is really imperative that we do address the roads to the best of our ability in the conditions, because it is becoming extremely dangerous, and we've all heard I've had that many, or never ever have I heard as much, I guess, distraught locals come in and discuss the roads with me. Like, it's a daily and quite a lot occurrence. And the other thing is harvest is coming up. So that is, we have to be mindful of we're a big agricultural region, and those roads have to be up to scratch as the best we can for that industry, as it's our biggest employer. And the third thing is, I just wonder if we do have enough signage to actually warn. And do we put out, a Facebook post and I know people are aware, but when you are coming up to a pothole or to a road where you are moving around to try and miss, which I'm doing, we are all doing, around a pothole on the road, you are going onto the other side of the road. And I know you shouldn't, but we probably need to see if we can get a bit more signage or flashing lights or just something to make people aware, because it is becoming really unsafe. And there is more wet weather to come, which is, I think, is the concern. So I just wanted to.
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's said it loud and clear. What I will ask the team to do is bring a report back. One, obviously do what we can during this period, but certainly bring a report back to potentially repurpose budget to focus on our road network. So for the consideration of council and potentially modify
through you, Mr. General Manager, I would suggest the team wouldn't even have to go out of the town limits in Young. You're going to take a drive up Campbell Street and Wombat Street or the main street, Burrawa Street, just down here, to find holes that can damage vehicles. Surely they drive over them every day.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
And Back Creek Road. Mention that. We could go on for hours.
Yes, I drive the roads as well, councillors, and so I certainly agree. The condition of our roads is parlous. So for that purpose, we will repurpose and bring back to you on what we think can be a solution, so we can put more resources to attempt to address this problem, which is across the whole of Hilltops.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Flannery.
Thank you for that, Mr. General Manager. Look, I don't want it to wait to come back to council for a recommendation to come back to another council. I would have thought with the General Manager's delegated authority, you could be making decisions, and if we need an EGM, but it's urgent. It's not something we've got 3 months to sit on.
Through you, councillor, with many conversations about my delegated authority, I think we can, given the annual budget, given that we are only 3 months into it, I believe the annual budget we can move forward. However, I believe that for continuity and over the full year, there may have to be some redistributed of funds. So if we just spend, if it was a linear assumption that we've had 3 months and we've spent a quarter of the budget, if over the next month, 2 months, 3 months, we're going to spend 50, 60, 70% of that budget for the immediate repairs, that would then leave nothing for the last 6 months. So that's why I'm trying to do the top and tail, do the immediacy. I believe I have the delegated authority to redistribute assets to go to that. However, there must be a back end to fill what may be a gap, utilising the budget further up.
We also got to look outside the box. Obviously, everyone is dealing with these, all councils are dealing with these issues. We've got to look at either hiring or getting additional pothole trucks. I mean, we've got to look at what is our serious priority and making sure our roads are fit for purpose. If our roads cannot be driven on at 100 kilometres an hour, there needs to be signs saying that. And there are roads that cannot be driven on at 100 kilometres an hour, and yet there's still no signage that's been changed, whether it's a section or the whole road. But we need to urgently get the equipment and the personnel or the contractors to make some fixes.
Thank you, councillor.
Am I right in thinking one of the concerns too, even with signage, is the lack of availability of signage?
Perhaps they can go and look on the sign of the road. I know a ratepayer down the Brow Road who gave a box trailer load of signs back to council last year when they said they'll come down and put signs up, and he gave them a box trailer load of signs that had been left over the side of the road over a number of years. I'm pretty sure you'd find the same along many of our existing roads.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, we do not have a shortage of signage. Good. We have a crew that's starting to move around the area to pick up signs and make sure that the signage is up. So we've got a dedicated crew in each area now to do that. So yeah, it is happening.
So organisation is underway.
Yep. And so just to reassure councillors, if I do feel that the budget doesn't extend to what potential solution is, I will call an extraordinary meeting for that to be considered and voted through as appropriate.
And I'd just like to say that within the constraints of what is happening, the staff that I have seen working, I appreciate the work that is being done in trying to keep our roads in as good a condition as possible in very trying circumstances. So I do thank the staff for all their efforts in what they are doing. And I'm sure with the comments from the General Manager, if more funds are available, then we will be looking forward to an improvement in our in what is a dire situation for everybody, everybody in the state, and also just close by as well. So,
perhaps, Madam, I'd like to move an amendment to that council receive and note the report and add a part B that the council write to the Minister for Local Government and urgently request funding be released for road repair.
So, Councillor Ingram
happy for that,
and Armstrong, are you happy for that addition?
Yes, I've still got questions though.
Provided. And Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question in regard to since we're on roads, the issue of I note in the traffic committee meeting that there was some concerns in regard to signage or the need for signage on the Clifton-Bribri Road between Cudgel Creek and Malabar. I'd suggest that the signs probably need to go between Cudgel Creek and Thadungra now. That piece of road is an absolute disgrace. It is as dangerous as it could be. I would bring to everyone's attention that there are a very large number of trucks carting grain for an extended period of time back out of the grain facility at Bribri and also further west. They put in a huge amount of stress on that particular road, which already suffers stress as a result of the operation of young mining. So if we can get some signs out there and some follow up on that, then I'd greatly appreciate it. The other question that I had to ask, it relates to the routine maintenance and inspection of playgrounds, including playground equipment and softball areas. And I'm wondering, does council maintain records of such inspections and softball condition?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, we do.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just one more
yes.
question. Oh, through you, Jenny, sorry. How often are the roads inspected? Is it just considering how much they are deteriorating because of the weather and the usage? How often are they inspected?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I can go back to the rain event we had on the 5th of August, we immediately dispatched crews to look at the area. So we picked up on where the problems were. At the moment, we do not have a dedicated crew that goes around the district to condition assess it. It's something that Director Infrastructure and myself have been talking about this last couple of days. And we're looking at a solution where we can get somebody in to come and assess all our roads, get a baseline, and then have the condition assessment done of it. At present, I've got in Burrawa, Harden, and Young. There's one at each depot actually driving the roads at the moment. Young area is nearly completed and it's being captured on reflect as well. So that's being done at the moment, so we can just know what our roads look like. So we've started with that.
Through you, Mr. General Manager. Just one point on that around the road condition, and I know things have changed and changed quickly with all the weather, but we had a officer working for council who did a condition assessment on all the gravel roads and was presented to the Asset Management Committee. I've called for that to be distributed to all councillors once before, but it hasn't been forthcoming. Surely that would go a long way to helping council staff that are currently here know where the roads are and what their conditions are, and give them a great starting point, because a lot of work went into that report, but I haven't seen it tabled back to councillors. When I chased up the minutes of the Asset Committee, that I sat on with Councillor Flannery and Councillor Armstrong on the other iPad. I get the meeting, but I don't get the agenda that was there, and the minutes I can't trace them back. So surely on council records they would have those documents, and they could be provided to everyone and give you an idea. My second and last question in regard to this report is, Councillor Armstrong mentioned routine street and footpath mowing, and works planned routine street and footpath mowing. Question to the General Manager: who decides just whose footpath and gets mowed and routinely and whose doesn't? How's that work?
Manager operations.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Ingram, that's a good question. I'll take that on notice and I'll come back to you on that one.
Just at the point, I'll just say questions taken on notice, and I've got some comments in a bit later about those. When we take them on notice and say we'll get back to us, yes, we do that.
Right. Thank you, everybody.
Yes,
well, this is the last.
Madam
Thanks,
Mayor, well,
Councillor
I think
Flannery.
we're actually here as councillors to deal with issues. So I think until we get it all finalised, could the director please add Moppity Road to it? I don't believe it's been, if it's been inspected for a month, I'd nearly regard it as negligent because there's been water running down the middle of the road for a month. So could it be inspected, please? And could something be done to get the water running down the middle of the road, because water and weight cause damage? So the quickest way to solve some problems is get the water off the road. Springfield Road at Borua needs an inspection. As an issue, we need to consider GrainCorp's use of road. It's something that I think we need to make the Minister for Transport and the Minister for Local Government aware of. It's just not acceptable that councils can be made foot the bill when a rail line's down. So I believe we need to write to an rail minister that if they don't, why should they not fix up rail lines and we wear the cost of it?
Madam Mayor, I believe that we could add that to the motion with the consent of Councillors Ingram and Armstrong, so it's documented that we write to the appropriate ministers, the Minister for Transport and the Minister for.
Completely agree.
Local government.
And I think, you know, a detailed report needs to be provided showing the damage that's being done to the roads.
Councillor Flannery.
And sent with the letter.
Yes, please.
Right to the Minister. Right to the Minister of Transport and Minister for Local Government regarding the utilisation of
Local roads for freight of grain to Port Kembla because of the rail line that's down, and that we're getting no compensation. It's causing extreme damage.
Councillor Ingram, I've just emailed that report that you're after.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
I've sent it to all councillors.
Thank you for that.
Could we include some photographic evidence, do you think?
I think we need a report with photos and
I think
detail.
part of councillors, I think obviously this will be certainly an element of the report that I'll need to bring back to you about how we're going to approach all of the road networks. Obviously, this is one element that we can talk to, and we request to the ministers responsible, but certainly we'll have information once as part of that larger report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Flannery, and thank you for your suggestions. Well, we've had quite a bit of discussion. Let's put it to the floor. The motion before you with receive and note the information provided, write to the Minister of Local Government for funding to be provided for road repair, and write to the Minister of Transport and Minister of Local Government regarding the utilisation of local roads for rail line for grain haulage as a result of rail connections, rail lines. being down.
Without compensation.
Yes, for grain haulage, it should say due to rail lines.
Due to, yeah, rail line failure. Is it? Due to rail line failure.
Just on that, I suspect it's not just due to rail line failure. I think they're prioritising other industries on the rail, and we can't get the things. But I couldn't be sure of that. But the wording on that section, I think, needs to be careful. Unavailability, I think. For
my understanding, there's been damage from weather to the rail lines, which is preventing them getting it off the main line down to Port Kembla. But I could be wrong. But either way, grain is on the road. It should be on rail.
Yep. Yes, you're quite right. All right. Happy with the wording?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I'll put to the floor. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. If we turn to 1213, 2217, Fixing Country Roads Grant Submission 2022.
Move with question.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of questions. I'll start with probably about the easy one. Truck wash at Young is basically inoperable. It still relies on coins. It's antique, and the Fixing Country Roads has the ability to apply for truck washes. Do we plan to apply for an upgrade of the Young truck wash? I believe Young Shire Council in 2016 put an application in for a truck wash at Chillingworks Road, and that was unsuccessful. So basically all the work's there. The numbers would simply have to be updated. Are we planning to apply for that? And if not, why not? Or could we include it? Is one question. Number two, given the state of our local roads, why are we looking at putting the grant application in for some of these roads? And I, in particular, note Maringo Gap Road. Whilst yes, it would benefit LPC, and I don't begrudge them that, I think we need to consider a lot of our existing road network before we start doing upgrades or sealing some of these roads. And thirdly, McMahon's Reef Road, as part of our LEP and consultancy, and I've forgotten the name, but it was on the Transport for New South Wales' priority list as an alternate route in the accident of a failure of parts of the Hume Highway, and noting that it links Burley Griffin Way and the Hume Highway. I would have thought that it should be up the list because it feeds into A, our LEP, and B, Transport for New South Wales. And I wouldn't say you're a sure bet for funding, but when you fit into the government's priorities of road upgrades, you go a lot higher up the list.
So I'll start at the top. The truck wash at Young, yes, we have been looking at that. We want to update how the truck wash works and operates, as well as if there's any remedial works that needs to happen there. It's not on the list because we haven't finalised the costing on that. However, the funding goes in on the 14th of October, the request, so we can certainly add the truck wash to this list. The second question, Maringo Gap Road, yes, it is a very trafficked area, and I've driven that road recently, and there are big areas where it is quite bad. If we want to focus on that, these were projects that came up, particularly with the government, and that speaks to the McMahon's Road as well, particularly with the government's focus on increasing freight movements and freight and transport of grain and other products. We looked at these roads specifically in that light because there's a lot of food movement for ALP. So that's one of the key features we looked at when we were looking at these roads, is freight movement. It is a better chance that you have if you focus on the government's priorities, and freight, clearly, if you read the criteria for this funding stream, is a very important consideration. So if we want to move McMahon's Road, yes, I've been up there. I know that there's 2 bus routes there, and that one bus actually left the road, and we're trying to seal those areas that are still unsealed because it is the connectivity, and that's what we will be writing into the funding application. Now, I'm happy to put McMahon's Road up at the first line to say it is a priority if that's the feedback I get from councillors. And if there's anything else that either we feel we shouldn't be doing, like Maringa Gap Road, then we won't put the funding in. But if there are additional roads that if councillors want to refer to me, we can add it to the funding request.
Probably it's not for me to choose priorities, but I'm highlighting what came up in our freight transport study, and I know it feeds into the government study. So, and I'm also cognizant of the fact that Maringa Gap Road, because I use it occasionally for machinery, and it would be good if it was widened. It's going to involve significant tree removal, I would imagine, and that has its issues in its own right. But anyway, I would highlight that we should look at our freight transport study that we did as part of the LEP when we're considering what roads we're going to upgrade. And Maringa Gap may well feed into that. I don't recall it, but I also think we should be pretty urgently getting in a car and driving around our existing roads and seeing, before we upgrade, it's a lot cheaper to put gravel on gravel roads for the time being and focus on getting grants to fix our existing asphalt roads, because if we've got to do our asphalt roads ourselves, we're going to have a pretty big hole in the budget by the end of it all.
Can I just ask where, thanks, Councillor Flannery. I was on the Maringa Gap Road lately, and yes, it needs work, but I can also appreciate the fact that it's a throughway, isn't it? And that's what you're looking at, opening up that grain area. And moving it onto the main road, onto the highway.
So even though it's not a regional road or whatever, it is connecting, it provides connectivity. It's on a freight route. We are very mindful of the harvest season coming up. We are continuously looking at Bribery and the failures of that road there, because 3 months ago, Bribery Road wasn't in a bad condition. And we've driven it at least every second week, and it is deteriorating fast.
Can I, pardon me, Coco Mingler Bridge. Could you just tell me where that is?
Yes, sure. I had a bit of a blank moment the last time I was here, but Coco Mingler Bridge is actually in the Burrawa area. And if you follow Coco Mingler Lane, you go through Burnett Springs, and then you get to Reeds Flat Road, and then you finally connect to the Lachlan Valley Way along that road. And I will, while I have the opportunity, just make a correction there. I said replace the bridge. It's actually not the entire bridge, and the question was asked in the briefing. Thought we didn't have any timber bridges. We may find a few as we go along, but this particular funding is for replacing the rails of the bridge, which is timber. The rest of the bridge is not timber. The rest of the bridge is stone and steel. And when you do the change of the guardrails, you actually have to bring it to standard, do the approaches as well. So we need to do work on the approaches when we take those guardrails down. It is in very poor condition.
The other comment I would make, and I said I don't want to speak down Maringa Gap Road, but I imagine would that be a B double route if you were to put that application in?
The Maringa Gap Road, we are looking at increasing it to become a B double route because of the freight that it's carrying. Because
certainly, I mean, I would support, well, there may well be benefits for parts of the Moppity Road and even traffic movement through Young if we could get freight coming from Cowra that's ultimately ending up through into the Canberra and Sydney region. If it channeled them through Maringo Gap, then through to Lachlan Valley Way, it would obviously have the benefit of removing some freight there. But just being mindful of what we're trying to achieve at the end of it all.
Yeah.
Just a question through you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I had a recollection that Maringo Gap Road had a load limit imposed upon it.
It does have a load limit imposed on it. It is a 5-ton load limit. However, they do have a special permit to move grain and then to move empty big doubles. So they have a special permit to move PBS
Who's
trucks. LPC.
Okay, so one person has a special permit, the rest of the world doesn't. Is that correct?
I don't know if the rest of the world doesn't. This is the one I am aware of.
Okay.
They
So
applied for it and it was approved.
fundamentally, there is a load limit on the road that excludes everyone other than LPC.
No, it's managed. That is managed by only a truck and dog goes there, which is under the load limit, and then empty B doubles can use that road because it's a faster route for them. But it's no full B doubles are allowed to go on that road.
Councillors, the reality is if the road is substantially upgraded, then the expectation will be that it'll be open to all of the heavy vehicles. There's some benefit at the moment with a load limit being in place, in that the school there isn't subject to those heavy vehicles on a regular basis. I honestly think that whilst there are areas out there that warrant significant upgrade, I really believe that the best value for money is actually going to come from extending the seal on McMahon's Reef Road and providing that duplication should something happen with the link through to the highway. It just provides a level of redundancy that we just don't enjoy at the moment. The only other point that I guess that concerns me is that very recently, on the 24th of August, we presented with a document that indicated that Schiller's Road needed a $55,000 spent on it for some patches, and Table Road needed $120,000 spent on it for some patches. And I look at this and I see that 55's turned into 2.185 million, and Table Road's 120,000 has turned into 1,150,000. I'm just wondering, is that can we get some details of how we get from being in need of 55 and $120,000 worth of work to being in need of 2 million and 1 million's worth of work?
For both those
Councillor
roads.
Armstrong, I have that document in front of me here, Councillor Armstrong. I support that question.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, at the time of the preparation of that report, that was what we believed we needed to get to do some heavy patching. Both of those roads have got significant deterioration, and should we be successful in getting this money, we can actually upgrade the roads far better than just doing patching. And that's what that is reflected in, because you'll see that it is more intensive works on those two roads.
Through you, Mr. General Manager, a question in regard to the criteria. The criteria set by Fishing Country Roads is self-explanatory, it's there. I asked the question that was taken on notice at the last council meeting, if we could be provided with the criteria that staff used when we were discussing the fixing local road funding. Where over 70% of that funding was sent to two roads that I haven't seen mentioned anywhere else. And in this report, the criteria used to determine the roads for the grant application was based on the use and flow of traffic on these roads. My question is, can we please see the information that provides those numbers and the traffic on those roads? Where do we get the traffic volume from? And those actual traffic numbers, seeing that appears to be the criteria that was used for this round. And could I also have the criteria that I called for at the last council meeting that was used to allocate the money for fixing the local roads provided, please? So my question tonight is, how did we come up with the traffic volume?
We do have some traffic information on those roads, excepting for, we don't have on Coca-Mingla because there's no place really satisfactory to put that. And we don't have any data on Gladstone Road.
So you're telling me all those other roads here, we've got data on, official data?
Yes.
Very pleased to hear that. I didn't think we had road counters out there. I'm looking forward to receiving those reports. Thank you.
I'll provide that information.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Warringah Gap Road.
Yep.
It says here upgrading for mass, allow local companies such as LPC. So LPC isn't just the only one. It is for different companies or different farming organisations, mostly they would be, wouldn't they? And do they apply for a licence to use that road, or it will be upgraded to a standard where they can?
Well, any vehicle movements, when it's under the NHVR movement, they have to apply for a permit, because we then determine once a road is deemed an NHV road or a National Heavy Vehicle Road, they then need to apply through the portal for that, so that we ensure that they stick to the routes. And that's really important, is we have set routes that these heavy vehicles can move through.
Yes, so anybody can apply.
Yes.
So that the criteria covers. Thank you.
Question for a couple more questions for the director. What quantum of money do we reasonably expect to receive based on historic performance? And have we put an application in? Well, it doesn't appear as though we have. And given the state of our roads, and one of the criteria is for bridge and culvert assessments that confirm or determine the load rating of structures, so on and so forth. Route load assessments that confirm or determine suitability of pavement for higher mass limits. I would have thought it would be worthwhile putting an application in for a circa $150,000, $200,000 budgetary amount to carry out the extensive amount of survey work that is going to be required when things do dry out, so that we perhaps have to consider reprioritising our roads. Has it been considered? And if not, I suggest it should be considered, number one. And what quantum of money do we reasonably expect to achieve?
Previous ones, we have been very conservative, because that was part of the funding criteria. This funding criteria, they don't name an upper limit, and they also don't name there's an upper limit there, and they also say that you can apply for 100%. So we're putting the best opportunity to get sufficient money. And as far as doing a survey on the roads, we have not put in for an application for this, but we are planning on doing a survey, and the manager operations has commented on that we are busy investigating that and understanding how much that is.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, more questions. Delta Agribusiness operate at the top end of Bundabo Street, and it's a B-double route, is my understanding. Recently, a couple of local transport companies have been fined by Weights and Measures because the road was deemed unsuitable for B-doubles. And I understand council hadn't carried out the assessment in the requisite time frame, and so it's no longer a B-double route. Is that correct? If it is correct, do we plan to do the assessment which might fall under this funding criteria? Would you please advise us of that position?
I'll have to take that on notice, Councillor.
Thank you.
Okay. We have before us Councillor Flannery, you've want to round up at all?
Well, I would actually like to, I don't know whether I require to move a motion that McMahon's Reef Road be moved to top or near the priority list, that we apply for money for truck wash upgrade in Young or relocation. I'm not aware of the exact details, but I understand that all the plans are there from a 2006 application, so it should be a fairly straightforward process, and that we apply for a quantum of money that the General Manager and Director deem appropriate to carry out the considerable amount of road assessments that will be required, so that we are in a position to apply for further grant funding down the track.
Thank you. Wait for a minute before it comes up.
In reality, Mr. General Manager, do we expect to receive $12.3 million for Bridbury Road plus any or all of the others? How close to reality is that request?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can't speak to the criteria which will be applied. Given the magnitude of roadworks that is required across the state, we're really in their hands. I can't speculate. I'm sorry.
Councillor Flannery, are you happy for McMahon's Reef Road to be first or second? Because I feel Maringo Gap Road is very important as well.
Well, I feel it should be first. So we might have to toss a coin, will we? Toss a coin and take a vote.
Can we put one
can I
slash?
just while the Minute Secretary is trying to the truck wash at Young be added to the grant application list?
Just for Councillor Flannery's information, that was actually an application by Hilltops Council that was submitted in late 2016, early 2017, that was unsuccessful. But I don't believe there was actually a design done for it. It was a proposal.
I'll stand corrected on that, but nonetheless, I believe, given my understanding of the current, I think the existing truck wash operates at the sale yards there. I'm not too sure where the effluent ends up, but there is a creek behind it.
In its own effluent ponds. Right. But the only thing I will say is that in its current state, whilst it may not suit commercial users, it certainly suits private individuals who, during periods of drought, are known to use $2 coins to fill their water tanks up rather than have data cards that commercial stock carriers may carry. So any proposal to convert it straight to a card system would significantly disadvantage the community. So I think that council needs to be mindful of that before it puts any proposals in.
I think it needs to be considered that it needs to be moved, given what may be future plans for that site. I don't think we want to go spending a heap of money having a truck wash there when I, for one, council have other ideas in mind about the sale yard site.
So could we change it? Well, we've just put truck wash at Young, so that's a fairly general statement. We're not putting a specific site.
Line F, quantum of money for road assessments to apply, road assessments to enable grant funding to be applied for when available.
Question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Armstrong.
I applaud your doggedness in regard to Maringo Gap Road. I would just point out that Shoes Lane is actually the key in the whole development or the whole works. In that, if you do up Maringo Gap Road, you're still going to run along Shoes Lane or 9 Mile Gap Road, which is a gravel road. So I'd suggest that the best value would actually be in finishing Shoes Lane rather than doing up the other end of the road. Anyway, I don't want to try and influence you. I just put an alternate point of view in regards to that particular situation.
Maybe we should move Shoes Lane up too. That 2K, I presume that means that would be upgraded as well to then feed into the Maringo Gap Road. Would I be right in that?
I would think that's exactly right.
Yes.
I'm not the director, right?
No, not a director standing behind you.
The director's probably nodding her head saying yes.
She is right behind you, Councillor.
For you, Madam Mayor, that is why Shoes Lane is also on that list.
So the two each other. So we have that network complete then.
Madam Mayor, look, I support that comment by Councillor Armstrong, but I stick to my knitting on the McMahon's Reef Road. I believe it feeds into the government's plan and the council's LEP plan, so I believe it should actually be top of the list for that reason. And then I would support your priority of Chews Lane and Ringo Gap Road fitting in behind that.
Well, looking for peace around the table, I won't dispute that this time, as long as those three roads are seen as of high priority.
My father once said, "We're not here to make peace, we're here to make decisions."
Through you, Madam Mayor, just checking, Councillor Fitzgerald, you were the seconder, so you're happy with these amendments that have been proposed?
I'm still trying to consider the order of the top three. I believe that we have identified the top three as Chews Lane, McMahon's Reef and then Maringo Gap. But personally, I'm trying to work out what would be the best order. And so I'm not certain that I accept the point D at this point in time. If people could give me more information, as I'm not totally a rural road driver off the beaten track.
Question to Councillor Fitzgerald. Is your concern A, Maringo Gap Road, B, Chews Lane, or C, McMahon's Reef Road?
My concern is getting the order right that we send in, and I'm not certain on which should be the right order.
I don't want to sound like an echo for Councillor Flannery, because he probably sounds better than me. But the freight study that was undertaken as part of the LEP review identified that there was a significant shortfall in an alternate route or a bypass or an emergency route between Hilltops and the Hume Highway, because that was a major freight corridor. It identified that McMahon's Reef Road provided that level of redundancy. So it was identified both in the Hilltops 2040, it was identified regionally, and it's acknowledged by the state. So I would suggest that probably that road, finishing off that road and sealing it to turn it into an all-weather corridor would be consistent with the objects of Hilltops 2040, our own strategic plan, the regional plan, and also the state government. So that's essentially the reason why I support it as number one. I think because we've committed to it in at least our strategic plan through Hilltops 2040, and that's been identified through those studies.
Thank you for that information, Councillor Armstrong. Could I ask a question through you, Madam Mayor, of the General Manager or the Director of Infrastructure? Is our priorities, as we send them in, a significantly determining factor of whether we get the grants or not? Do they work from the top down?
I will pass that to Director of Infrastructure. I think I can answer it, but I believe Director of Infrastructure will answer it better.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we put the list together as a priority. It's not always how the funding bodies do it. They have a look at it and sometimes they come back to us and say, what are your priorities? And other times they say, well, these are the roads that we're going to be supporting. And that's just the way it is. When we put in funding, there have been times, as I said earlier, we put in funding for a lot of things and we were very ambitious and we got everything, and then we put in funding and we get one road out of 10. So there's no saying. That is ultimately the funding body's decision. And also, given the fact that there is so much damage across New South Wales and not just within the Hilltops, they will have a lot of people applying for this funding and there will be a lot of competition in that market.
I was just going to say, if Councillor Flannery wants to move an amendment to the motion, I'm happy to second it, and we can discuss it as an amendment and then treat it as it should be treated with the code of
I'm happy to do that. I'll move it as an amendment to the
I'll
motion.
second it.
So just so I understand, there was the original movement of the motion, and it was agreed for all parts except for the prioritisation between the mover and the seconder. So that's the element that is under discussion. Is that fair to say, Councillor Flannery?
Well, I think points D, E and F have been added with the concurrence of the original mover. Given we can't get agreement on it, if I move it as an amendment, we then debate the amendment. And And then if the amendment is voted in, it becomes a motion.
Can I comment on that? I asked for further information on whether I would accept it as an amendment to the motion, and I think I've been given the information I require from Councillor Armstrong. So at this point, to avoid any further details, I'm happy to accept that.
So you accept the motion as
accept it as
put,
is.
and then it's you can now debate the motion before you as moved by the mover and seconder. Yep.
If it's accepted, I'm happy for that to be the motion.
Madam Mayor, questions for Councillor Flannery?
Yes, Councillor Harbour.
I probably know, but I've forgotten. Are you on an advisory panel representing Hilltops for a road transport? You seem to have a lot of knowledge about what's been going on. I thought maybe you were sitting on some of the.
I was on the previous LEP committee, and I went to as many meetings as I can, and I follow what's happening with our roads pretty closely, but not that I'm aware that I'm on an advisory committee.
All right, okay. I just thought you had a lot of knowledge. I thought you might have been sitting on one.
Being a major user of the roads, you have a fair idea, don't you?
I do. I don't particularly use McMahon's Reef Road a lot. I use it occasionally, but I'm aware of the freight and transport study.
All right, we have it before us. I think we've had quite intelligent conversation over this and discussion, and thank you, everybody. So I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll move to 1214, 2218, the action summary report.
Move the question.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Second.
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Mr. General Manager, do you want to talk to it?
It's fairly self-explanatory where we believe we are at. So I welcome Councillor Flannery's question.
It's not on the list, but it should be because it's not completed. The Boreal Horse Arena. Can we get some details on the Boreal Horse Arena? If there's anything that I get more questions about and heated, angry questions about, it's the Boreal Horse Arena. I believe it's awaiting, or I was last told it was waiting an engineering tick-off and a fire plan.
I believe, thank you, Councillor Flannery. I believe the Manager Operations can give us an update on that.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, yes, Councillor Flannery, we are busy with it. What came to light recently was it's built across 2 lots, and before we can finish it off, the lots have to be consolidated into one. And that's the last step that we have to go through before we can get sign off on it. The fire engineer has given their final approval, and yeah, we've got a couple of jobs still outstanding there, but we're nearly there.
Could we get a little bit more detail? How was it built across 2 lots in the first place? How did we build it without an engineering plan, and how do we build it without? Why do we need a fire study for something that's sand and steel in the first place? I mean, I think the Boreal community have had it up to here with the excuses and the bad planning and the bad management of a $1 million building. I mean, we need some. I'm just sick to death of trying to explain where we're at with it. So, what is it? How do we build something across 2 lots that we can't use? I mean, no one gives us a RA about whether they've got to ride a horse across 2 lots. What's 2 lots got to do with whether we can let people use it?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I may suggest to Councillor Flannery and Armstrong, we make a B and we bring a report to explain the history of the project and the current status. Would that be satisfactory, Councillor Flannery?
Yep, I'm surprised we can't be explained to us now, but I want to know when it's going to be open. That's what I want to know. When will that be operational?
Mr. General Manager, when that report comes, can we also have the hydraulic considerations as a result of the water issues that are that seemed to be ever present with that particular structure, and that were highlighted the day that it was declared open.
Yep. Absolutely, Councillor.
One further question: has the soil been removed from in front of the cattle loading ramp at the Boorowa cattle yards?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes.
Question in regards
Question, yes. Councillor Ingram.
the action for resolution and refers to the mayoral minute in regard to the urban footpath construction program. The status comment is progressing. My first question is a couple of parts to it is, how's it progressing and how long maybe we expect to wait for it to be progressed? Do we have any idea of any timeline?
I'll have to pass to the director or the manager.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll have to take that question on notice.
Through you, Mr. General Manager, again in regard to the same item. I'm pleased to note that in the July, August and September works report, there'd been no footpath construction done, which is how it should be, because the mayoral minute clearly states that it needs to come to council for consideration, the process for determination of the program. So I'm really pleased to see that. But my next question relates to an item coming up very shortly in regard to funding for a notice of motion that I put in the business paper, and in a conversation I had with Mr. General Manager in regard to that, with concerns when he contacted me about the funding being available, I was told that the financial team had informed the General Manager that $70,000 worth of footpath works had been done in Harden. So that money, the $200,000 that is a line item in the budget for Youngborough and Harden footpaths, has been spent. My question is, I'll probably ask you for an explanation how someone could tell you that $70,000 worth had been done in the Harden area when the last three business papers clearly state there's been no work done, and as of last month, there should have been a halt to everything because there's a mayoral minute there that a report come to council. So just so I can clarify when I get to my next item, Mr. General Manager, could you please explain how this could be happening?
Through you, Madam Mayor, apologise if I read that as to halt all, well, to give a direction to staff to halt all footpath construction. I did not read it in that way. I read that as to explain what the process was to determine how that money would be spent. I'd have to pass to the manager or the director, as in how the work was given the green light to do that. I do understand that there was a contractor enrolled to do the work, and they've done the work, and that's.
Then my question, Mr. General Manager, is in the last three business papers, it's been reported that no work's been done. As of last month, it might not read in the terminology you just used, but it's pretty clear that when it was asked to be provided with the urban footpath construction program for this year for its consideration, as well as the process for determination of the program. Now, at that meeting, there was an opportunity for someone to say, oh, we've already done this or done that, but no, in the business papers, it says no work had been done. My question is, has the $70,000 been spent on footpath renewal in the former Harden area, and it hasn't been reported in our business paper, or is the information you received from your financial department incorrect?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I was advised that some 62,000 odd had actually been invoiced and paid, and the indication was that the full budget line item would be spent for the work that had been contracted to be done.
Then why wasn't the works reported to councillors? How can three business papers say no work's been done, then all of a sudden, guess what? The whole 4,000, I think it is, line item in the budget is gone.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry to, I don't want to cut you off, Councillor. The process of which we report upon the budget is quarterly. So we reported the spend for the quarter of September, and the reporting guidelines state that we must present that report to council within 8 weeks of the end of that quarter. And so that's when we would have reported the spend of the line items for that line item, as well as all the other line items.
I'll refer back to the works report for the last 3 months, which are the 3 months you're talking about in this financial year, where it says no works were done. Can't have it both ways. It just doesn't work that way.
I'm not looking for that.
Neither am I. I'm just trying to get some clarity around what is reported to councillors, and it will become more pertinent when I get to another item not very far away.
Okay. Through you, Madam Mayor.
Who decided where?
I focused on the financial line item from the quarterly. I rely upon my staff to provide me with information of what works was actually completed from the physicality.
Feel free to actually direct them to provide that information there to councillors if you feel like.
I don't know whether they have that information at hand. I'm indicating no, they would have to take that on notice.
So we spent round figure $70,000 on footpath renewals in one particular area, and no one knows anything about it.
I certainly know something about it, Councillor Ingram.
Enlighten, please, Councillor Stadmiller.
Thank you.
The footpath,
Thank you,
I believe, in
Councillor
question.
Stadmiller.
Yeah, can I please speak?
Yes,
No
you
one
may.
else seems to know, but I grew up in that part of Harden, so I can elaborate. The footpath that I believe is in question commences down from the hospital and goes down Scott Street. It then turns right along the Dugong Road. It then turns right and goes back up the hill up Swift Street and then joins another path. The interesting piece about the footpath is that it doesn't actually service any current structures or homes in that block. You have to go across the road to find a house on 2 of the 3 sides. It's actually a U-shaped concrete path that isn't really serving a great deal of purpose. When in Harden, we've got paths that need replacing, and all of a sudden a brand new footpath popped up that isn't really servicing anyone. And I've had people scratching their heads in Harden asking me, what the hell is this footpath doing being constructed? So there's the answer, Councillor Ingram. I think it's probably been done by design.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stadmiller, and that probably furthers my point about who made the decision for it to be done. The reason that the mayoral minute was called for to have the construction program presented to council for determination of the program. Now, there's an example of a councillor living in that current area who's just explained to everyone what their thoughts were on that particular item that's been done, but it seems strange that it takes a councillor to be able to tell the rest of us councillors what work's been done. I think I'll rest my case on the point there, and I'll speak a bit more about it in a moment. It is just not good enough.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Councillor Mackey.
Oh, I did. How is it determined where footpaths are placed?
It's going to be Pam.
That is the very question that was put before us in relation to providing that information. And as staff has indicated, we are working on that, so we have no answer for you.
Clear as mud.
All right. Thank you.
Question, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Just
Councillor Armstrong.
my question was, how far have the PAMP investigations progressed? It appears as though they haven't progressed very far at all from that discussion. Without a PAMP, the pedestrian access and mobility plan, I'm wondering how the foot paving was constructed and those costs incurred. But more importantly, I'm wondering how much is council raising as a debtor for that foot paving construction?
I'll have to take that on notice. I'm not aware of.
Can I please come back to council rather than a council newsletter, because council newsletters are in confidence, and I think that the community deserve to know that.
Certainly.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong and GM. Any more?
One other question, just in regards to 22206. Status is progressing. I'm just wondering when it'll come back to council. It's on the bottom of page 170.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that will come to the October meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I think I will put it to the floor. Those in favour?
Ingram, Foreman, Fitzgerald, Mackie, Flannery, Rolls, Hewson, Piper, Dodd, and I do believe I saw your hand up, Councillor Stadmiller. Thank you. For, those against, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, councillors. All right, there's next one, correspondence for information. 12/15, 22/19, media releases and Office of Local Government.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Flannery.
Yes, I asked at a council meeting, I can't remember, August, I think it was July or August, details of money we spend on weights and roads, whether the weights and measures, whatever they're called, Southeast Weight of Load Group, whether the money comes back to.
I'm sorry, Councillor Flannery, we're doing the media releases. You've jumped the gun, but valid questions for the next report. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Stadmiller, are you in favour of the media report?
It did go quiet there. A microphone might have been off. Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Unanimous. All right, 12/16, Hilltops Council Local.
So move with question.
All right, thank you. And seconded, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Well, I'll start with the first question, actually, which was the CUSAC. I note and thank the committee or the CUSAC Road matter being raised. I'm not so sure I understand the response or agree with it. Could the director or could Councillor Fitzgerald enlighten me as to what I don't understand about the signage at the intersection of the Motley Road? And before the answer is given, the issue I raised, the traffic travelling westbound on Cunningar Road frequently miss the intersection unless they know the road. Those who don't know the road miss the intersection, and then there is an area that they do U-turns on at the crest of a hill, and the grass is all worn out. And I've seen at least 3 or 4 near misses there because there is no road signage east of the intersection to advise people that the CUSAC Road going to Young is immediately coming up. So the response there, which is no action required, I don't think meets my understanding of the issue.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there is obviously a misunderstanding as to what was required. I'll take that back to staff, and staff was reported to me that it was appropriate what was there. I'll go back to them and ask again.
Okay, thank you. That was one question, that there be signage on the eastern side of the intersection to notify people that the road is coming up. I asked for details previously of the Southeast Weight of Load Group contract with council, when it expires, how much we pay, and whether the revenue that is levied or the fines that are levied come back to council. And I was told a report would come back to council, which obviously missed the action summary report. Because it was in this list, I raised it here. When is that report coming back to council? And can the director enlighten us on the Southeast Weight of Load Group contract And I foreshadow that I would like the contract to be removed from council's expenditure.
Thank you, Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, we do use that group because they then check on our mass load limits roads, which you are aware of. I don't have the number with me tonight as to how much we are paying for them, and I can certainly get the contract out and provide a report to council in the October meeting to address what the conditions of the contract are, what revenue potentials there are, and note that the concerns on the actual utilisation of that group. I'm aware that several people have been stopped by them, so they are active in the area.
I'm aware they've been stopped too. My concern is they're stopping people for petty matters. The purpose really is to stop heavy vehicles using roads that they shouldn't be using. I don't believe they're achieving much in that regard. But anyway, I look forward to the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Councillor Fitzgerald, have you got anything to tell us about the Traffic Advisory Committee?
No, not at this point in time, although it will note that there were some non-members of the committee who addressed the committee on some issues, and whether that is an appropriate situation, I'm in discussions with the General Manager on that at the moment.
Thank you. All right, if there's no more Councillor Stadmiller.
I've asked on a number of occasions whether somebody could please put on the agenda the disabled parking or lack thereof at the Kruger Medical Centre. Is that possible to happen? Who do I need to write to get that to happen?
Can I answer that? I've had a look at the disabled parking required at the health centre in Harden, and I'm still not sure why there would be a description of that was less than adequate, but I'm more than happy to take an email from you, Councillor Stadmiller, and take that up further.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. I'll communicate through that form with you. Cheers.
Didn't we discuss that last meeting? Yeah. What was the outcome of that?
The traffic committee only deals with the street,
Yeah.
and the disabled parking is within council's property.
Yeah.
We could mark as many out as we wanted to.
Yeah.
Question to the General Manager, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Just in regard to the traffic committee, I did note that there are a number of non-committee members that did attend. I'm just wondering, how does it come about?
To answer that question through you, Madam Mayor, one of the members of the committee invited them and informed me as the chairperson they were to be invited, and has provided some sort of documentation, which I'm still working through with the General Manager as to whether that's appropriate or not.
Is it in the scope of the the chairman to invite persons that are not delegated by council, not appointed by council of those committees?
That's the point that's in discussion in terms of the documentation from the Department of Transport. My
concern is that I'm aware of a similar situation occurring back pre-amalgamation, and there were some legal ramifications attached to it. But anyway, I won't say any more about that.
Yeah, we're still investigating that.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. If there's no more discussion, I'll put it. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. We'll move on to 12, 17, 22, 21. Committee reports requiring no action. The recommendations there. Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Seconder, Councillor Foreman. Any discussion? No, I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. There are no questions with notice, and we'll come to 1422, notice of motion by Councillor Ingram. Councillor Ingram, would you like to present your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, I bring this notice of motion back to council. I spoke on it quite in depth at the last time it was presented, so I don't wish to rehash over a lot of old ground. Councillors in the room are well aware of my thoughts in relation to the unfortunate failure of our merger, but that's no reflection on our staff. It's a reflection on mergers. I think out of all the merged councils that were merged at the time, there's probably two. There's one in the Metropolitan Council that said they're happy and going all right, and the Queanbeyan Pellerine is the other council area that seems to have worked out okay. The rest are a shambles. I bring this back to council because some things have changed since I last put it to council, and the biggest item that changed is the Minister for Local Government has given the nod to the Koodagundagai Council to demerge. The press release and the statement by the Minister for Local Government only really pointed to one area for the reasoning, and that was because of financial failure. I can tell you now there are any number of merged councils lining up for the same reason. And the reason that I moved this notice of motion for council to investigate a business case is strongly supported by the same facts, almost $50 million worth of failures. There was talk when I moved this motion before that waste of time. They won't co-co, they won't do this, they won't do that. I mentioned that night that I strongly believe that there will be a change in our state government next March, and obviously so does the party at the table now, because I'm pretty sure this decision to allow the Koodagundagai demerger to go ahead would have been a very tough decision to have to make, knowing full well that now all the other merged councils that wish to proceed with the merger need to be giving a hearing on the same grounds. So I'm sure it wasn't a very easy decision for the Minister for Local Government to make, but I'm pretty sure it was a political one, because a number of independents and the Labor Party are circling in regard to a number of matters leading to the election, and merged councils is one of them. We talked since then about a good budget result, and it was for the last year. I met with another fellow councillor who said, you know, things improved. And it was, and we congratulated and spoke about that at a prior meeting, but it was, and it's not a sustainable budget, but the result was, let's use the word sugar-coated, I suppose. You know, we had some advance payments, significant amount of money. You know, you had line items taken out of the budget that were there before, set aside $800,000 for Tech One, and we took that out because we didn't know what we were going to do with Tech One. So that makes things look $1 million better already. But what happens in 6 months' time when we have to do those investigations with Tech One? We'll need to revote that $800,000 or $900,000 back. So you know, that's only, it was propping up numbers, and it's a great result. It's not sustainable under those conditions. The other point that I'd mentioned tonight in regard to this is another piece in the puzzle that was talked about solving all our financial problems: special rate variation. At that last time I spoke about this, councillors mentioned, you know, people they spoke to were happy about. The question I would ask you, councillors, when you're asking someone about our beautiful Hilltops area and how do they think they're going, or about merging or demerging, do you mention to them the fact that coming to council will be a request for special rate variations, which over the next 4 years could see your rates increase anywhere up to 70%? There's a very simple way to ask those questions to the ratepayers, as I have done the last week. Average run-of-the-mill ratepayer in the Young area home, $2,500. Put 70% on it, it's another $1,700. Ask them, are they willing to pay this extra money and at the same time see a lower level of service. You may get a true indication of what the community are feeling. I'm only a small rate payer, $7,500 currently. If it goes 70% and goes up another $5,200, I might have to change my postcode. I don't mind paying money. It's like any business for a good service. But when we'll be talking about trying to raise extra funds to survive for a lower level of service, it just doesn't add up. My point about our council not working, and it's nothing to do when I speak in relation to staff, current or gone staff. The project is too big for our team of council workers. We saved money, we didn't have any staff. We're advertising for a heap more staff. There goes the financials. The work and the complexity of what needs to be done in the region the size of Hilltops with the communities that are involved is too big a task for any staff. I'm the first to congratulate, and always have congratulated staff when the job's done well. Staff are struggling now. The job is too big. And if that needed to be emphasised any clearly than what I just spoke about, a footpath matter and financing, any council in this room shouldn't be under any illusions about this trouble. Not too sure how it's happening or why it's happening. It's too big. It's too big a job and too complex for the people, or not just the people, any staff people who might be in their positions to comprehend and do. It's failed and failed poorly. So for that reason, I put this up, and maybe I didn't explain it properly last time, and I don't want to run out of time, but a business case, and it reads for the merger, if you feel that you're happy and you feel that the people you talk to in the community are happy with it, let's see, the business case might back you up and reassure all of us that I'm wrong. And I said before, I'll stand up and put my hand up. The business case can do two things. It can say, yes, you should be merging, and say, oh, no, you're going all right. But what I'm asking for is a chance for that to happen. I believe we owe it to our community that we investigate the options available to us. If your answer is, oh, the community you're talking to is not really too concerned, you wait till next week when the newspapers have it about the special rate variation and the chance of their rates increasing by that amount of money. You will hear about it, all right? That is a fact. It's an unfortunate, but it's a fact. So in all good faith, as I spoke before, councillors, I believe we owe it as councillors to our community to give ourselves the opportunity to have a business case done and presented to council in regards to the merged council. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. I think we need a seconder for this motion. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor. Last time we had quite a in-depth conversation when we moved into committee of the whole, but I don't think that is absolutely necessary now. Do we have, I'm open to it. How do people feel? Otherwise, we will work on the basis of if we have a speaker for, 2 speakers for, 2 speakers against. Not okay. Who would like to speak for this motion? Councillor Armstrong did. Yeah, Councillor Ingram, but Councillor Armstrong, you want to? Is that right? Did I see you?
The next speaker would be a speaker speaking against.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I am looking. Do I have a speaker against? I will speak against it. As I have spoken before, when I was elected at the beginning of the last term, I was elected as a Hilltops councillor. I have been part of Hardinshire, and I have been part of Young area. I see this, when I joined Hilltops, I see it as a new entity, and I see us moving forward. It hasn't been an easy path, but I see that we are making great strides in establishing ourselves as a voice within the area, and also in bedding down the work that is being done to transform us into a modern, up-to-date new entity called Hilltops. As far as services are concerned, that's open to conjecture, I suppose. Myself, I know we went through lowering of services, but that was partly because of a council resolution to help us become sustainable in the future. As I move around the Hilltops, and I see my role as a mayor to bring our Hilltops together. It doesn't mean to say that we don't forsake the idiosyncrasies that are part of each area, but it does mean that we see the region grow. Young, I think, will grow. We're being seen, I think, as a hub. But if we see all the rest of Hilltops as contributing to that growth, then why would we de-amalgamate? I can't see it. I would also argue that we can't go back to what was before. It doesn't work. It will not be the same, and it will continue to change. So my view that our Hilltops, with our population of about 19,000, which is giving us a base that we can grow on, is the way to go as far as the special rate variation is concerned. I have had a few discussions with people from outside the area who acknowledge that our rate base isn't very high. And also, I think in the future, we have to have that discussion about what we are willing to pay for the services that we want. And we are not the only area that is looking at a special rate variation. If we look all over New South Wales and to councils not too far from us, then they are looking at the same procedures. So in speaking against this, I'm a Hilltops councillor. I'm a Hilltops resident. In fact, first I would say I'm a Hilltops resident, second a Hilltops councillor, and third I just happen to sit in the chair as mayor, and I'll continue to bring us together in whatever way we can. Now, next one, speaker against. For, pardon me.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, this has been before council before. At the end of the day, what I want to see is I want to see the community in a position where they get to make the decision. This whole amalgamation thing was pushed onto us by the state government. I remember being at the local government conference that year where the then minister welcomed all the delegates and told them that would be their last visit to a conference. That was how desperate things were. And the sentiment of the various delegates, needless to say, was quite palpable. I don't believe that this resolution spells the end of Hilltops, as some people may believe. I believe that what this resolution does is provides a basis for where Hilltops goes in the future. So it's really the roadmap that we need. The last 6 years, to be perfectly truthful, I think have been an unmitigated failure from the financial perspective. We have depleted our internal resources to the point that we have internal reserves for our staff leave entitlements of about $1.1 million and liabilities of about current liabilities of about 5.2 or so, or thereabouts. When we started this whole journey, there was $3.2 million in there. Where's the money gone? It's not from people leaving. is because we've had continual budget deficits. We've nipped into not just our savings, but our staff's savings. And I personally find that reprehensible. I believe that this is an opportunity for council to stop digging into our savings, potentially, and move forward. And I'd urge councillors to support it. At the end of the day, it may be that the business case stacks up for Hilltops. Great. But if it doesn't stack up for Hilltops, don't the people in the community deserve better? Because the next council can change a decision like that. Don't think that a decision made here is binding on anyone for any period of time, because it's only binding while you're here.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. A speaker against?
I'll speak against the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Councillor Fitzgerald, the floor is yours.
Yeah, and I would appreciate being heard in the same silence.
You will be.
I hope so. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I'm going to speak against the motion because this has come before council before and was voted then, and I don't think significant things have changed between then and now. And I can't see that council should be going back to things again and again. Now, as I was not a member of the previous Hilltops Council, nor a member of the previous Young Council, I can't speak as to decisions that were made in those times. All I can say is that since I've been on the council, which isn't very long, less than 12 months, I've seen a significant development in our financial structure. I've seen the management structure from the general manager and all the other directors on down to be moving in a very positive direction. And I think that's really good. Now, Councillor Armstrong did say that he thought that things are going, we should, just look at it now, look at what could be happening and so forth. I think that's a very good idea. What I'd like to see, and the information I don't have at the moment, is what's going to happen to the Cootamundra-Gundagai demerger. How is that going to be handled? I have some significant concerns about that because I happen to work with people that live in that area who have concerns. I'm more than happy to sit back and wait for 3 months to see what happens at Cootamundra-Gundagai and then revisit this if it seems appropriate. But at the moment, we don't know. Do we need to appoint, the things that have been raised in that, do we need to appoint 2 administrators? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? They're the conversations I've had with people from Cootamundra, Gundagai council area. I just think we've looked at this once, we've said no, let's move on, coming back again shortly afterwards and redoing it again. I just don't think that's the way to go. We need some more information. Let's see how our finances stack up over time. We seem to be on the improve. And let's have a look at what's happening at Cootamundra and Gundagai for their demerger. Is it going to be worthwhile for them or not? I just think this motion's timing is wrong. That's how I feel. Thank you.
Councillor Ingram, your right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald, for that. And in regards to, you spoke about Cootamundra-Gundagai demerger, and you're not sure, and you spoke to some people who doesn't know where it's going and what's happening. I can assure you that in their business case, it is clearly stated in black and white how it will be done and how it will be dealt with, and all parties are well aware of that. I mentioned being involved in Zoom meetings with the New South Wales Demerger Alliance, councils in Sydney. All those things are put up in front, and Cootamundra-Gundagai have a clear path to how they're going to demerge and how they will go back to being successful councils independently. So I can address that matter. Madam Mayor mentioned special rate variations in a lot of councils. Yeah, you're right. Every merged council is seeking them. Some up to 80%. Some, in 4 years' time, are told that their council rates could be increased by 100%. I'm not making these numbers up. These are factual. So yes, there are people looking for special rate variations. Madam Mayor, I agree. You mentioned we've made great strides with Hilltops Council. We sure have. We haven't even got a tech system that we can work. We spend money, but we don't really know where we spend it. No one can tell us where it was spent or why it was spent. Unfortunately, that's not a great thing for any council. We can't even do the horse arena, as mentioned earlier on. I think I've well and truly spoken enough on it, and I thank you for your input and Councillor Fitzgerald as well, and Councillor Armstrong. And the timing was mentioned, it could be wrong. There's no time like the present. I did say before when I brought this to council, this was a very small step in a long journey. No one wants to be rushing into anything. I said before, I gave it considerable thought before I put the motion up, and I've been through the same process again. And I cannot find any way, shape or form that what's been happening in the last 5 years won't continue to happen. The only way it can be stopped, if you start asking people to pay a whole lot more money on their rates and lower the levels of service. Now, it was mentioned a moment ago that the levels of service by Madam Mayor that had dropped because we had a resolution to halt staff positions being filled. That worked well, yeah. So you want to put them staff back on now and fill them positions and do the work. What do you think that will do to the financials? I know what it'll do with the financials. There'll be no more pretty results like propped up this year. But that's for each an individual councillor to take on board. I've said more than enough, and again, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. All right. Oh, Councillor Sedmiller, pardon me.
Madam Mayor, can we move into committee? I'd like to have my say.
We need a vote. A seconder to move into committee. Councillor Armstrong. Those in favour?
6.
All right, we move into the committee of the whole. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Look, I'm the youngest person on here. This isn't prepared at all. I've just been listening around the table to people older than me, but I have been involved in local government for quite some time. I look at my fellow Harden councillor, Councillor Flannery, you may correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he served a term before I started serving a term. I've been at it 10 years, he's been at it 14 years. I believe Councillor Ingram's been at it 10 years. Feel free to correct me. That brings us to a grand total of 34 years before you add Councillor Armstrong, who's been at it for 5 years, which takes us to 39 years of local government experience as councillors. And that's not counting Councillor Armstrong's 40 odd years or 45 years in local government on the other side of the desk. And he knows what it takes to operate a council, from probably starting off emptying the bins under the desk to being general manager. I mean, no disrespect in any way, shape or form. When I look around the room, I look at the other local government experience, which is our mayor, 5 years, and then the rest of the councillors sitting around the table, elected in December. And I can see the fear of the fact that you're only recently elected, and it's exciting. It is in that first term, in that first 12 months, 2 years, 3, 4 years in of being a councillor and hoping to contribute and get things done. But there's far less experience in local government. There's far more life experience than I've got. I've got a long way to go. But the ones that are telling you to support this and asking you to support this have a lot of local government experience, and they can see where it's heading. They've already realised that a rolling deficit at CGRC of $27 odd million wasn't going to work. And the Minister for Local Government ruled on that and ruled on the mental welfare of the staff as reasons to make an announcement that they would demerge. Well, Hilltops is double the population and got about double the rolling deficit, 50 odd million. We're not going to work either. We never got a chance, any of us in any of the towns, to properly have our say and say whether we wanted to be a part of it. But the ones in the room that have got the most experience now are having their say and asking you and telling you what they think. And I don't agree with the other three gentlemen all the time, but I'll certainly agree with them on this. And to take the other hats on and just look at the outcome of Hilltops, I can't see this working. The word Hilltops is a fallacy. It's a lie. It's a name given to an area on a map. It does not identify who I am, the community that I represent, and the area that I understand. I don't know where Cocoa Mingle Bridge is. I'm sorry, I don't have a clue. It is vast, the Hilltops area now, and it is very difficult for councillors to get across everything and understand everything. As Councillor Ingram mentioned, we never had these sorts of issues when it was hardened, just on its own. And I'd say Bora never had these issues and it was just on its own, either did Young. But now we're expected to know roads and streets all the way from Jugeong and Riverside Drive all the way out to Riverbury, which is some 100 kilometres away. It really is a task that requires a full-time job, and it's just unattainable for your everyday person. Whether it happens now or it happens at March when the Labor Party most likely wins the election, Sportsbet's got them at $1.73. I'm a little bit of a betting man. They've got the coalition at $1.83. If the Labor government gets in, they will allow the individual communities to have a vote. And if that vote is to get out, they will allow you to get out. So your tenure as a Hilltops councillor will come to an end. The map dissolves, it disappears. It's as simple as that. You then get to run as a Young councillor, as a Bora councillor, as a Hardenshire councillor, and some sense of normality comes back into what has been a crazy 5 years. It has been nonsensical and was done by politicians in Sydney who didn't care or understand about the bush. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Sednall. We're in the Committee of the Whole. Councillor Dodd, do you want to make any? No?
I move that we come out of committee as a whole.
I'll say something, and I don't want to go on for too long. Look, I can see benefits from a large council area in economies of scale or a large enterprise if they work, and I have serious reservations about whether we are going to be able to make this work. A business case has never been prepared, so I think it will at least put some hard facts and figures on the table for everyone to read. I will be the first to admit I have people say to me, we can't go back. We've got to stick the course and keep going ahead. And I have plenty of people saying they want to go back. The service levels have declined significantly. And if they're going to pay higher rates, and I think if I put my hand up for higher rates, I don't think I'll be sitting here next time around, and I won't support it. I'm foreshadowing because I don't believe we should, as Kerry Packer famously said, you don't spend the money properly now. Why would I give you more to spend badly? So I'm not going to support a special rate variation, and on that basis, if council doesn't support it, none of us will be sitting here because we'll be sacked as administrators unless we can turn the ship around. So I think it's a bit of a moot point in some ways. But I think there is enough argument that a proper business case be examined, which considers the viability of it all. And I think it's incumbent on me as a councillor to at least have a detailed look at the pros and cons of it all. That's probably all I wish to say. I'm not, I can see merits on both sides, and I hear, I certainly get a lot more people saying they don't think it's going to work and they don't want us to continue like they are. But I get other people saying stick the course, but I think a business case is at least one way of addressing the issues.
Thank you.
I'll move that we come out of committee.
Sorry.
Councillor Piper.
I have only been here 6 months. I have had a business that was in extreme financial difficulties with the payments that I had to make. I never had a wage at that business for 2.5 years, but within 5, I had to go to the taxation department and ask them to let me pay off the bill because we turned the whole thing right around because we made some tough decisions. I think anyone sitting here thinking that if we go back to the 3 councils, they're going to get away without monumental rate increases, they're deluding themselves. If we can't run it here without monumental tax rate increases, which I don't think we can, we've got to have increases. How in the hell are we going to do it in 3 separate councils? That's my little bit.
Well, instead of asking to come out of committee, I'll speak in committee then, just in response to Councillor Piper about saying if we can't do it as one big one, how can we do it as 3 little ones? And I won't and can't and don't wish to speak for the former Boorowa or Harden areas, but I can speak to the former Young Council. I can assure you there was never going to be any need at that time for a 70% special rate variation increase to keep the levels of service and provide what we were providing to the community then. And there wouldn't be if the Young Council was standing on their own 2 feet right now. As I said, I can't speak for the other councils, but I can assure you that the council that contributes 58% of the revenue to Hilltops Council was quite stable. They will tell you, no, it didn't have a lot of money. Well, local government, you're not supposed to have money. You're supposed to provide services to your community. And the Young Council did that very well, year after year. So saying that as we can't survive as 3, how can we survive individually? No, that's not quite correct. We can. I mentioned a point that I think I've spoken once before, talking about administrators. We tried that administration. It didn't really go real well here. And the general manager at the time, who was appointed under administration, I went to every community meeting leading up to the announcements and talks about mergers. Now, the meeting in Boorowa, he was questioned by people from Rye Park and Rugby about concerns about the levels of service that would drop and wouldn't happen. And a meeting in Harden was the same reply by the then acting general manager. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. We will have a budget of almost $70 million. So yeah, combined budget, and we'll still have all the same bills to pay. How can he tell these small communities that it'll be fine just because he's going to have a bigger number at the end of the budget? I spoke to the general manager about that later. You're telling these small communities, don't have concerns, we're going to have a budget of $70 million. I said, don't you think the people of Young, where 58% of it are being paid, will want their cut? So it's not going to make any more money for the smaller communities unless you take it off the big one. That is factual. And that's what was being said at the time. It was incorrect then, and it's incorrect now. Thank you. And now I'd like to move out of committee if someone would check on it.
Okay. Seconded. We'll move out of committee. Councillor Slaney. Oh. Vote to move out of committee. Unanimous. All right. Now we're out of committee and we will vote on the motion in front of us. So all those in favour?
Councillor Ingram, Councillor Flannery, Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Stedman.
Those against?
Councillor Foreman, Councillor Fitzgerald, Councillor Mackie, Councillor Rolls, Councillor Hewson, Councillor Piper, Councillor Dodd.
Thank you. The motion is lost. On to the next one, 14.2, 22, 23. Notice of motion by Councillor Greg Armstrong. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since the formation of Hilltops Council, a strong and ambitious capital works program funded by a mix of grant funds and revenue funds has been in place. The progress of the capital works program and delivery of completed projects has been impacted by a number of factors which have delayed works, created operational difficulties, and added significant complexities to the works, to the programmed works. They're the words that I wrote in the discussion section of this notice of motion. Tonight I've heard that we've spent $70,000 on foot paving when we don't have a PAMP. Capital works. We don't really know what the basis of doing those works was, and we weren't going to be, those works wouldn't be reported until September, when they would be reported in the financials rather than in a monthly works program. Councillors, our capital works program is in a mess, to say the least, and I think it's time that council stepped up to the plate here and actually started to review its capital works programs. That's the reason why I've put this notice of motion back up tonight. I believe that first of all, we need to know when these capital works are programmed. We need to know when there are changes to the program. At the end of the day, this comes down to service level as well as the provision of assets. And even though the Mayor has mentioned that the service levels have to be modified as a result of a resolution of council last October, I don't think that there was any expectation that the service levels would be declined to where people didn't know when these assets would be created, let alone council not knowing when they'd be created. If that's how low the service levels can get, God help us. Secondly, that a comprehensive financial report be provided to council on a monthly basis. It simply tells us how much we've spent and how much of the works are completed. This is nothing new in council. This is something that's been going on ad infinitum. It used to be prepared in 1977 for the Young Municipal Council. It was prepared for Hardin Shire Council. And I can't speak about Warwick Shire because I never bothered reading the business paper as such to see whether this style of report was prepared there. And I can't do it now because all of those papers have been taken down off the website. But I would imagine there would have been some significant oversight of capital works. These reports coming back to council on a regular basis will in actual fact provide similar information to that Councillor Stattmiller and Councillor Piper are provided with when they visit Golden Fields, because every meeting of Golden Fields there's a capital works update provided. And I do acknowledge that the number of projects undertaken at Golden Fields is numerically far less than the number of projects at Hilltops. The report is updated nevertheless, and councillors are informed of it. The big benefits. Well, we've heard that 50% of our available cash sits in an account that's effectively a cash account. I've got to ask the question: why would that be? Well, could it be that perhaps the finance people don't really know when that cash is going to be required for capital works and when it's not, and that they don't really have the luxury of investing in other instruments to improve the return for the ratepayers? Certainly $23 million, even at 2% for 6 months or 3 months, is a better return than nothing, as we're currently getting for some of the cash that's in there now. Ultimately, this shouldn't cost us any more money because a lot of this information has already been provided to council in different forms. Last September, the director provided a works program or a timetable. So it would be a matter of simply producing that same timetable again. I presume that timetable would be useful for staff that are actually undertaking the work too, such as the procurement people that have to buy the stuff in, or maybe the people that want to go on holidays can't go on holidays because guess what? There's capital works being programmed. If that timetable would be a significant resource for council just simply through its workforce planning, let alone its resource availabilities. So I think that this is a no-brainer in my eyes, anyway. The general manager's response down here tells us that we can have the figures by December. I guess I'm a little concerned that Microsoft Project and SharePoint don't integrate, because Microsoft tell me that they do. Obviously, Microsoft Project and SharePoint may not necessarily integrate with Tech One.
I'm sorry.
And I accept that.
Sorry, Councillor Armstrong, the point I was making there was Technology One doesn't integrate with the Microsoft products. I didn't actually ask.
2 out of 3 ain't bad, Mr.
Yeah,
General
that's
Manager.
right. That's right. That's right. Thank you, Councillor.
I'll accept that. But I'm aware that Tech One does have the ability to export out into XLS format or Excel spreadsheets. So I'm aware that Microsoft Project, including Microsoft Project Server, which is the pumped up version, actually has the ability to import budgets from XLS spreadsheets as well. So I think that there's probably a little bit more work that needs to be done in regards to how that's all going to work. But essentially, councillors, I'd ask you to support it, because I think it's going to provide us with a better opportunity to move forward with our capital works program and to manage our finances and hopefully deliver services to our community in a more timely manner, or at least a more informed manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Flannery? Councillor
Can I just
Piper?
ask a question of Councillor?
Yes, you can ask a question.
How often do you want this document presented? Monthly or?
Councillor Piper, I would think that given that we do a 3-monthly financial update, then any changes in scheduling would be satisfactory at 3 months. But fundamentally, on a monthly basis, the finances coming back to us for those projects wouldn't be unreasonable.
Okay.
Question?
Sorry.
Can
I ask?
Yes.
Just to the general manager, I would imagine it's a lot of extra time and obviously a lot of cost involved if you wanted to do it more often than we're having it done now, or if we're not even having it done now. I just wonder, is there a huge demand on the staff to bring it to us as often as you would like?
Through you.
Well, just a question. Was that a question to me or a question to the General Manager? Question to me, I'd answer it. If it's a question to the General Manager.
Okay, well, welcome the question and welcome Councillor Armstrong. I did actually have a discussion with Councillor Armstrong on what the intent was, which in some way guided my response. I believe this is necessary information for us as staff from an operational perspective to be aware of the timing. I believe it gives an impetus to us to focus upon the information. I believe it's very succinct. As I've stated there, it will take time to match everything up, particularly using business as usual. There may be some elements as we investigate what the capacity is and, as articulated by Councillor Armstrong, the ability to export from various products. There still needs to be an interrogation and analysis for that data. It is front-end loaded though. Once we have that system up, which is why I've asked as part of this, I'll give an honest appraisal on how long I believe it will take with the resources that we have, with the other demands, which I'll talk about some of the other requirements in that mix on staff. We believe we can give a fulsome document that should be able to deliver all of the requests from Councillor Armstrong by December, but I believe it will take us that long to get there. But I just want to stress there is nothing within what is being requested that I myself feel would be of use to us to be able to plan.
Question? In regard to that comment would be, it's working really well. Here we are all this time and we can't be provided with the basic information and well, we've got it. We'll give it to you in 3 months' time when we can make it look pretty. As a councillor, we have a responsibility to know where the money is and where it's going. Over the period of the last term of this council, when it's been failing dismally and $50-odd million worth of deficits were accumulated, I'll mention that again. There was speculation out there that as councillor and I as mayor at the time, we should have control over this and know where the money was. Well, it wasn't from lack of councillors trying to find out where it was and where it was going, I can tell you. There's a lack of information being provided to councillors, whether they knew what was happening or they just didn't have an idea at the time. But we have a responsibility as a councillor to ourselves and a bigger one to our community to be fully voiced and versed as to where the money is going and where it is. And we have to know, and we have to be able to ask, and council staff have to be able to provide that to us so we can keep a close eye on where that is. It brings me to my next point about questions that were asked on notice and no answers. Back Creek Road funding announcement. Do you intend to pass it on to councillors, or is it a red hot secret that we're not entitled to a response? I'm just waiting.
I can answer.
Please.
The funding came from the Local Roads and Communities Infrastructure Program.
That wasn't my question. Question is Back Creek Road. How much was it and what's it for?
Well, I do have that information. If I don't have it right in front of me. Can I look it up on my phone?
You're
Because I
joking.
do have it there.
You've only had 2 months.
Can I email it to you so we don't take up everybody's time?
No, hang on a bit.
I'd like to move the motion be put.
Wait a bit. Let's have the question answered in regard to the matter. Don't send it to me, send it to all councillors. All councillors are entitled. I have another question.
I'm more than happy.
I have another question on the same matter, please.
Put it in the newsletter and
I don't want the newsletter.
Can I please? There is a newsletter coming out Friday, which is where it is. We will form part of the works report because it's an acknowledgement of the stuff, and so it'll be part of public record.
In regard to these matters, that's just one. It's taken 2 months, apparently we know. How are we going with this? And would that be, do you know the amount of funding off the top of your head? Huh?
Sorry.
I think we're off the topic at the moment. I'm just
we're
getting
talking
lost
about
here a little bit.
funds.
Can I finish?
I've got the floor, actually.
Put the motion, please. I move the motion be put. Can I get a seconder?
I'll second that.
All right, we'll put motion be put.
We vote on putting the motion.
We vote on putting the motion. Those in favour?
Well, not unanimous. Councillor Sadman, are you against putting on the motion? No, for. All right, we put the motion.
I just have a point of order in regard to questions on matters before council. In regard to funding, the councils have an obligation to ask and know. Councillor Hewson, maybe in your days it was different, I don't know. There's a considerable amount of money floating around for stormwater drainage in Young. My question is, are they the items mentioned in the ARIC minutes of March that you haven't been able to tell council about in the last 2 months? Under the stormwater, it says waiting for approval.
I have moved the motion be put.
You've done a lot of things.
Thank you, Councillor. I will now put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you.
I'll put it in writing for the next meeting.
Let's move on.
Madam Mayor, questions for the General Manager through you. When we get this up and running, and I think you said by December, will that be able to be continually updated for us every 3 months?
So it's not only every 3 months for the scheduling, but also monthly per the outline that Councillor Armstrong articulated, that we've just voted on. That's the intent. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Confidential matters. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Second. Thank you, Councillor Hewson. We've got
4 again.
4. Pardon me. We're moving into confidential. Which yours are positive, Councillor Stadmiller? Thank you. Okay, General Manager, are you happy to give us a summary?
Thank you, councillors.
Closed.
Coming out of closed, it was resolved that under 15.2 2225 award of contract RFT 601 of 2022 Plant and Equipment Hire Panel, it was resolved that council receive and note the report on RFT 601 of 2022 Plant and Equipment Hire Panel. B, award the contract number 601 of 2022 Plant and Equipment Hire Panel to the successful tenders. C, conditionally award the contract number 606 of 2022 Plant and Equipment Hire Panel to those tenderers pending the submission of the required safety documentation. And D, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all documentation associated with this contract and expend funds as required within current budgets. At the report 15.3, energy supply contract sourcing, it was resolved to defer the matter to the October meeting, and report 15.4 2227 waste management contract extensions, that council approve the extensions of the contracts regarding green waste collection, waste and recyclable collection, and further waste and recyclable collections under different contracts, and delegate authority to the General Manager to negotiate and execute all necessary documentation associated with the extension of these contracts and expend funds as required within current budgets. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. With that, we have concluded the business of the meeting tonight. Thank you, councillors, for the part you've played tonight and the part that you do play in the running of our Hilltops region.